quorum of commissioners. We have 12 commissioners, no vacancies, which means we need 7 for a quorum, and we have at least 7. We have Commissioners Dukes, Howe, Serrano, Tabor-Stalen, Thompson, Warmack, and Mott's here, and others will be joining soon. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November 20th, 2024 Maryland Higher Education Commission meeting. We have an agenda. I'm told we have no public comments, and so we will begin with remarks from Secretary Rye and me. I just wanted to start off by congratulating the Higher Education Commission, the MHEC agency, for a fantastic Student Success Summit held last Thursday and Friday at the Universities of Shady Grove. It was a really impactful event. I was pleased to see so many of our leaders and partners in higher education there, and I know a lot of work went into it from the MHEC team, so I really wanted to publicly thank you all once again for all your hard work. I look forward to the follow-up items. I know that each institution has been asked to put some of their thoughts and follow-up items in writing due to MHEC on January 31st. So I look forward to what will come of the summit, but I think it was a wonderful first start. And a particular thanks to my friend and colleague, Vice Chair Agu, for presenting the draft 2025 Maryland goals. I think they were very well received, and we got a lot of important feedback and input from the institution. So thank you very much. Dr. Rye, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Moss, and good morning, everyone. I also want to echo the same words as Chair Moss. I want to thank everyone, all our higher education colleagues, for attending the summit, providing guidance, not only during the summit, but as you know, all our stakeholders are engaged in this process for the last 6 to 8 months, and we had a very, very successful summit. I want to thank all our commissioners for their guidance, and now also a slightly insistence for doing this summit and bringing everyone together. And I think we are in a very good place. But again, as Chair Moss indicated, this is the beginning. This is just a start. We'll continue to work with all stakeholders before these goals are refined further, come up with baseline data, benchmark, those types of things. They take a little time. So we will have the same collaborative process. We'll continue to work together. Last but not the least, I want to thank all my colleagues from MHEC. They have worked tremendously hard above and beyond of their day jobs. That itself is quite demanding. So I really want to thank all those colleagues. Those are my comments, Chair Moss. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rye. I will now turn it over to Ms. Kimberly Smith Ward and Ms. Soma Kadia, the 2 Assistant Attorneys General representing MHEC, for the next agenda item.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a quick item. Just like last month, we've got another final adoption, which in order for the regulations to have legal effect, you need to formally adopt them, and then they need to be published in the Maryland Register. So these are the substantial modification regulations. They were part of HB 1244. So Commission staff convened a work group and came up with changes based on feedback from the various segments and institutions. You saw these in August. They were published in October, and we received no public comments. And so they're ready for final adoption. Dr. Dow has requested an effective date of January 31st in order to allow sufficient time for implementation. And she and I believe Dr. Silva, though I can't see her on the screen, are available for questions about the implementation or the effective date if you'd like, and just let me know when you'd like me to read the recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Kadia. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Kadia, please go ahead and read the recommendation.
It is recommended that the Commission approves for final adoption the enclosed regulatory proposal for amendments to the regulation for standards for substantial modification under academic program review with an effective date February 1st, 2025.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Second.
Thank you. And do we have someone to make an initial motion?
I move adoption.
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any abstentions or opposition? All right, the ayes have it, and I see we're joined by Commissioner Agu. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
For the record, there are now 8 commissioners here, so they are approved. Thanks, Ms. Kadia. The next and only other agenda item is the review meeting. And I want to note that this is an all virtual review meeting and to thank everybody for their flexibility. We learned yesterday that the State Department of General Services found an issue in the building, the Nancy Grasmick building, where the Higher Education Commission is located. So none of the staff is able to be in the building today, and we're not able to be in person. So I want to just thank everybody for their flexibility and note that things are particularly challenging with technology. So please bear with us, give each other a little grace, and we'll do the best we can in this new setting. We're here today because Towson University is seeking review of the decision of the Secretary of Higher Education to deny Towson University's proposed PhD in Sustainability and Environmental Change. In June of this year, Towson University submitted a program proposal to MHEC for a PhD program in Sustainability and Environmental Change. Morgan State University objected on the grounds that Towson's proposed program was duplicative of Morgan's PhD program in bioenvironmental sciences. The Secretary of Higher Education denied Towson's program, finding it to be unreasonably duplicative of Morgan's program. Towson has requested a review of the Secretary's decision before this commission today. For the legal purposes in this hearing, Towson will be referred to as the proposing institution, since the proposed PhD program at issue was proposed by Towson, and Morgan will be referred to as the objecting institution. And for the record, I'd like to note I'd like to introduce my fellow commissioners. As I said earlier, this is a commission of 12 with no vacancies. And so to have a quorum, we need a majority of the 12, which would be 7 commissioners. I believe we have 8 commissioners here so far today. And again, for the record, I'm going to name them. We have Commissioners Agu, Dukes, Howe, Serrano, Tabor-Stalen, Thompson, Warmack, Motz, and if he's not on already, I believe Commissioner Williams will be joining us. Unfortunately, he didn't get the email, so he actually showed up in person to the Nancy Grasmick building this morning. It has been over a year since this commission has held a review hearing. Over the past year, some procedures have changed and some are in the process of being changed but haven't changed yet. So I want to spend a few minutes explaining the legal framework guiding today's review meeting so everyone is on the same page before we get into the substance or the merits of the particular program proposal at issue today. In July of last year, Secretary Rai and I issued a letter encouraging all colleges and universities to take a voluntary pause in requesting review hearings while a Maryland General Assembly work group considered legal changes to the academic review process. Many universities, including Towson in the program before us today, opted to take the voluntary pause. The legislative work group met last summer and fall. It was led by leaders in the General Assembly with representation from all segments of higher education. The work group made many recommendations, which were the basis of House Bill 1244 of the 2024 legislative session. HB 1244 was passed by the General Assembly in April of this year, and this is the first review hearing we have had since passage of HB 1244, which took effect on July 1st of this year. There are 3 changes made by HB 1244 that are in effect for today's hearing. 1, each party has 10 uninterrupted minutes to present to us before we commissioners can ask questions. Second, all of the commissioners' deliberations, including discussion and any formal action that we take, must be in open session. And the third item we were actually already doing in our review hearings last September, but HB 1244 codified it in law, a majority of commissioners currently serving, not just a majority of commissioners present at the hearing, must vote to uphold or overturn the secretary's decision. As I said before, in this case, all 12 commissioner seats are filled with no vacancies, so at least 7 votes would be needed. There are other parts of House Bill 1244 related to the academic review process that have not yet taken effect. There are regulations that are in process, going through the required regulatory review process, including public comment, on track with the timeline set by the legislature that will soon be complete. For example, last month, this commission voted on regulations that would further refine the review hearing process. So under the new regulations, the scheduling, the timelines for parties to speak will be more streamlined. The higher education secretary will no longer be a presenter. He will provide information to the presenters, but the only presenters will be the higher education institutions. So these regulations are close to the end of working their way through the administrative process and will take effect on December 1st, but they are not in effect today. In addition, House Bill 1244 called for the establishment of a program review process advisory council, which is meeting for the first time today at 3 o'clock. This council of university presidents and provosts with representations from all segments of higher education will address several topics, including HB 1244's addition of the standard of unnecessary duplication. And they will focus on the regulations related to that. And we heard just a few minutes ago that the regulations changing the definition of substantial modification were just approved by this commission today and will take effect January 31st. MHEC Assistant Secretary Emily Dow will provide the commission and any interested members of the higher education community and the general public a full update on the significant efforts to implement House Bill 1244 at our commission meeting next month on December 11th. But I just wanted to provide a little context and show all of the work that has been going on, and just to give a sense of what's in effect and what will soon be in effect. I also want to take a minute to commend the agency team for their very hard work over the last 4.5 months since House Bill 1244 took effect on July 1st. The team at MHEC has been working extremely hard to implement this law. They have met the milestones set by the legislature and are on track to continue to do so. And I just wanted to thank the MHEC team. I'm sorry we're not in person because I really would like to thank you personally, but fingers crossed for next month. I also want to note this has been a really collaborative process with our partners in higher education. And I want to thank the higher education community for continuing to work so collaboratively as we continue to implement the legislation and write the regulations and with the guidance and the leadership of the Attorney General's office. So thank you everybody who's been involved. The one other thing I want to note is the context of these hearings. I think most of the folks in this meeting know this, but I think it's worth repeating. The vast majority of academic programs are approved by MHEC with no objection from another institution and no review meeting requested. This year to date, MHEC has approved 91 new academic programs, and this is the first review meeting we're having. So we absolutely want to get these review meetings right at the agency level and at the commission level, and it's very important that we do so. But I also want to note that these review meetings are rather rare. So just to keep that context. I'm now going to turn to the procedural history of the particular program at issue. Towson University first proposed the PhD in Sustainability and Environmental Change in March of 2023. At MHEC's suggestion, Towson withdrew the recommendation to engage in collaborative discussions with Morgan State University. On May 13th, 2023, Towson resubmitted its proposal and Morgan objected. Then on July 18th, 2024, Secretary Rai and I issued the pause memo that I mentioned earlier to all institutions of higher education, encouraging institutions to take a voluntary pause in these review hearings or review meetings while the legislative work group considered changes to the law. So that pause memo was on July 18th, 2024. On July 2023. On July 31st, 2023, Towson withdrew its proposed program after receiving the pause memo. Fast forward to June 17th of 2024, Towson submitted its proposal for a third time. And on July 1st, 2024, 3 weeks later, House Bill 1244 took effect. On August 14th, 2024, Morgan State University filed its objection to Towson's proposed program. On August 28th, 2024, Towson responded to Morgan's objection. On September 13th, 2024, Secretary Rye issued his decision letter denying Towson's proposed program. On September 25th, 2024, Towson submitted a letter noting its intent to appeal. On October 15th, 2024, Towson sent this commission its statement of rationale for its program. And here we are on November 20th, 2024, having a review meeting. I'm about to go into the procedures, and then I will turn it over to the parties to speak. I do want to ask parties to make a particular effort to focus on civility during this hearing. As we all know, this is a virtual hearing with all of the kinks that come with technology. And as I said earlier, I hope that we give each other grace and act with respect and use the hand raise function when we get to the questions after the 10 minutes that the parties are speaking. Just so we don't have interruptions, I would just ask my fellow commissioners to use the hand raise icon, and I will call on you, hopefully in the order that you ask questions. I see Towson is actually raising its hand right now. Do you have a question?
Yes, Chair Motz, we do. Can you clarify for us the time we have? We have understood.
Yes, I'm about to get to that, President Ginsburg.
Okay.
Yes, I'm about to go through I'm going to read from the regulation so I get it right, but I absolutely will do that. So any other questions? Okay. So the review meeting procedures are governed by the current Code of Maryland Regulations, COMAR 13B.02.0328 E and F, and Section 11206.1G of the Education Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Each entity shall have time to present and answer questions from the commissioners. The speaking order and allotted time for each entity is as follows. First, the Secretary of Education will have 30 minutes to present and answer questions from the commissioners. The first 10 minutes shall be uninterrupted with no questions from commissioners. After the first 10 minutes, at the chair's discretion, commissioners may ask questions. It is recommended that the commissioners take no more than 15 minutes to ensure sufficient time to answer questions. And if desired, the secretary may reserve a portion of the allotted time to respond to the Towson presentation, because Towson goes next. So President Ginsburg, in answer to your question, after the secretary speaks, Towson will have up to 30 minutes to present and answer questions from the commissioners. Again, the first 10 minutes shall be uninterrupted. After the first 10 minutes, at the chair's discretion, commissioners may ask questions. Again, it is recommended that the presentation take no more than 15 minutes to ensure sufficient time to answer questions. And if desired, Towson may reserve a portion of the allotted time to respond to the secretary's response to the Towson presentation. So then secretary goes, Towson goes, and if the secretary has reserved some of his time from his initial 30 minutes, he can go again, and then Towson can go again. And then finally, Morgan, as the objecting institution, will have 10 uninterrupted minutes to present if they elect to do so. And then after the presentation, at the chair's discretion, the commissioners may ask questions. And then after the presentations have concluded, we commissioners will deliberate and vote on the action in open session. Is that clear to everybody? All right. So first up is Secretary Rye. Sir, you have 30 minutes total. The first 10 minutes will be uninterrupted. Commissioners, I ask you to just keep track of the time. And after 10 minutes, please use your hand raise button and I will call on you. But we want to be sure to honor the law and let the secretary or his designee be uninterrupted for 10 minutes. So Secretary Rye, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Marts and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present and provide a rationale for my September 13th decision to deny Towson's proposal to implement a new doctoral program in sustainability and environmental change. We do not take these decisions lightly. As a commission, we are charged with reviewing a proposal in the context of the entire ecosystem of higher education in Maryland. To do this, we review all relevant materials, we have discussions with campuses, and we work to produce an analysis that is consistent with the law. Let me reiterate, this decision was based on very careful review and analysis of the proposal from Towson, the objection from Morgan, the written response from Towson, discussions with both institutions, and other relevant information. Today, I am requesting that the Commission affirm the decision to deny Towson's proposed PhD program in sustainability and environmental change. Before I turn our time over to Dr. Dow and Ms. Kadia to provide details on the rationale for this decision, I would like to highlight the opportunity I see here for an alternative path forward: collaboration. This is an ideal situation for collaboration between two public universities that are less than 5 miles apart in Baltimore area. We agree that the climate crisis facing humankind are undeniably amongst the most serious issues confronting Maryland, the US, and the world, as Towson notes in their statement. However, we do not believe that the implementation of an additional doctoral program as currently designed is the solution. Due to the need for environmental scientists and other related professionals at the undergraduate level, in which Dr. Dow will provide additional details on, it seems more appropriate for Towson to leverage their resources into expanding or growing the existing strong bachelor's program in environmental science and studies, instead of approving an unnecessary duplicative doctoral program. This is the ripe opportunity to support the development of a dedicated pathway from Towson undergraduates and master's degree students to attend Morgan's PhD program, leveraging the existing programs at each institution. Collaboration between Towson and Morgan would ensure that the students from both institutions could benefit from the array of faculty and the research and academic infrastructures at both institutions. I would urge the Commission to reflect on and consider this alternative solution to address the environmental crisis. With that, I turn the time over to Dr. Dow to walk through our rationale. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Ryan. Good morning, Chair Motz and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some additional remarks regarding the recent decision to deny Towson's proposed program. Towson University, as previously noted, submitted a proposal to offer a PhD in sustainability and environmental change on June 17th, 2024. The proposal was circulated for public comment, and we received an objection from Morgan State University on the basis of unreasonable duplication that would cause harm to another institution. Morgan State University has a PhD program in bioenvironmental science, which was approved in 2000. It is a strong, long-standing program. While Morgan does not have a bachelor's or master's degree specifically in bioenvironmental science, they do offer a bachelor's degree in environmental engineering and were recently approved to offer a bachelor's degree in sustainable urban environmental engineering. Additionally, Morgan is in the process of forming a Center for Urban and Coastal Climate Science Research, which would both support research and advance scientific knowledge in the fields related to climate change and environmental issue. Towson currently also has strong, longstanding bachelor's and master's programs in environmental science, approved in 1997 and 2001, respectively, The Towson's bachelor's degree in environmental science and studies has graduated an average of 48 students per year over the past 10 years. And the master's program at Towson in environmental science has graduated an average of 10 students per year over the past 10 years. We determined that the proposed program has substantially similar content to the Morgan program. Like many doctoral programs, both programs allow students significant flexibility and course requirements so that students can complete coursework specific to their research interests. Both programs require 60 credits. Towson's proposed program requires 3 core courses or 9 credits, and Morgan's existing program requires 5 core courses or 15 credits, focused in the study of environmental topics. The remaining required courses are either seminar courses, dissertation courses, or elective courses chosen by the student in concert with their research or academic advisor. Towson argues that the proposed program is unique because it focuses on sustainability. Our review of Towson's proposed coursework indicates 2 required courses on the topic of sustainability. All students are required to take the core course, Sustainability in a Complex World, and 3 semesters of a 1-credit seminar course called Environmental Science and Sustainability Colloquium. 6 required credits focused on the topic of sustainability. A review of elective courses indicate that there are 2 courses with the term sustain, sustainability, or sustainable in the title or description. Those are environmental policy and sustainable management and planning for a sustainable region. We are unconvinced that the focus on sustainability is a distinguishing feature of the proposed program, despite the inclusion of the term in the proposed program's title. Towson also argues that the proposed program is unique because graduates will be well equipped for high-level research, teaching, management, administrative, and leadership positions, and many sustainability relevant fields, and that the proposed training will prepare them to fuel future research, inform environmental policy, create jobs, and educate future generations. We believe Morgan's existing program does the same. Towson argues that the interdisciplinary design of their program makes it unique and distinct. However, both programs are interdisciplinary regarding environmentally related concepts and similar broad topics. In Towson's rebuttal to Morgan's objection, they note that Towson's proposed program has broader variability in the composition of electives compared to Morgan's program. Towson's program would allow students to select from 73 different elective courses. Morgan's existing program allows students to select from 35 existing courses. However, we find that the electives in the 2 programs are broadly similar, as evidence in the course analysis provided by Morgan's objection. We find that the distinctions between the 2 programs will be dictated by the student's interest and not specifically the intentional design of the program. A review of the program descriptions indicate that both programs intend to prepare graduates for careers in environmentally related topics that leverage the academic knowledge and skills, research training, writing and publication experience, and communication skills acquired in the program to solve environmental related challenges. Admissions criteria can demonstrate differences between the 2 programs. However, we find that the admissions criteria are similar. Towson's proposed program would require prospective students to have a bachelor's degree in a relevant field. Morgan's existing program requires prospective students to have a strong background in the basic sciences, but that does not mean a student needed to major in a basic science. Towson argues that Morgan's admissions criteria are more specialized and that therefore Towson would be admitting a different student body. However, as Towson has not asserted or demonstrated that their program is geared towards students without a strong background in the basic sciences, Towson's admissions criteria do not preclude them from accepting and admitting students with the same background as the students who may be eligible for admissions to Morgan's program. Furthermore, Morgan's admissions criteria are not significantly more specialized than Towson's. Therefore, there is an overlap in admissions criteria. Moving on to market demand for doctorally trained individuals. Maryland Department of
Dr.
Labor.
Dowd, sorry,
Yes.
if I could just interrupt. We are at 10 minutes now, so if commissioners have questions, and I should have asked you, are you planning to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
Yes, we are.
All right, so you're about 10 minutes in of your 30, just FYI.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair Motz.
Yep.
Maryland Department of Labor data does not show a growing need for doctorally trained individuals for the applied practice of environmental science. Towson's proposed program would leverage a classification of instructional programs code, a CIP code, CIP code, titled Environmental Studies, using the federal crosswalk of CIP codes to occupational codes. 3 occupations are identified, with the exception of faculty members at colleges and universities. 2 of the 3 occupations require a bachelor's degree. This suggests the need for the development of new undergraduate programs or the expansion of existing undergraduate programs to meet the projected occupational needs, particularly for compliance officers and environmental sciences and specialists. Towson's proposal highlights the need for a variety of occupations related to sustainability and environmental change. Similarly, many of these occupations require education at the undergraduate level, not doctoral training, and specialized training that the proposed program would not provide. For example, training to be a hydrologist or a soil and plant scientist. Towson's proposal also highlights a 2012 report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on green jobs and sustainability, which identifies 3 major categorizations of occupations as sustainability professionals: management occupations, science occupations, and engineering occupations, and a 4th categorization of other occupations. However, per the report, none of these occupations, except for biochemists and biophysicists, under the science occupation, none of these occupations, except for those 2, require a doctoral degree. And it's unclear how the proposed program aligns with management occupations and engineering occupations. While we recognize the need for additional attention on environmental science and environmental studies and the long-term impact of climate change on Maryland's environment, as highlighted in Towson's proposal, we find no evidence that an additional doctoral program is the solution. In fact, due to the need for environmental scientists at the undergraduate level, it seems more appropriate for Towson to leverage their existing resources into expanding or growing the existing strong bachelor's program in environmental science and studies. To the extent that doctoral level graduates are needed, in addition to Morgan's existing program, there are 3 other environmentally related doctoral programs in Maryland. This list excludes doctoral programs focused on environmental engineering or environmental health. One of these is a joint PhD program in marine, estuary, and environmental sciences offered collectively by the University of Maryland College Park, University of Maryland Baltimore County, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and the University of Maryland Baltimore. Moreover, we do not believe that denying Towson's proposed program harms the state's ability to combat climate change. As evident in the additional materials provided by Towson during the review process, there is a need for clean energy professionals, such as electricians, HVAC professionals, and professionals in the construction field. In fact, the Maryland 2021 Clean Energy Industry Report indicates that with more than 54,000 jobs, the construction industry accounts for the majority of clean energy work in Maryland. The report highlights additional professionals centered in energy efficiency, clean energy generation, alternative transportation, clean grid and storage, and clean fuels. Similarly, the 2024 Priority Climate Action Plan for Maryland, a report prepared by the Maryland Department of Environment for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, includes a workforce planning analysis. That workforce planning analysis highlights two major initiatives. First, encouraging the formation and growth of clean energy startups and technology development. Innovation in the clean energy sector is one way to grow the industry and spur job creation in Maryland. And second, business attraction, attracting clean energy companies to Maryland through incentive programs available through the Maryland Department of Commerce. Working in tandem, the report also notes that to foster the development of a workforce to support the emerging offshore wind industry, the Maryland Department of Labor developed a strong talent pipeline through the Good Jobs Challenge Grant, supporting both entry-level and mid-level training programs to grow and sustain the state's offshore wind workforce. We do not believe Towson's proposal, as currently designed, is able to directly address these immediate workforce needs regarding clean energy and climate action. Instead, we think growing their existing undergraduate program is likely a better solution to meeting the environmentally related workforce needs in Maryland. Again, we do not believe that denying Towson's proposed program harms the state's ability to combat climate change. Some additional considerations. Morgan currently has an enrollment of 54 students in their program, and that enrollment nearly doubled between 2019 and 2021. This recent high growth is indicative of high demand. Given the similarities in the two programs, there would have to be a compelling reason, such as major occupational shortage, to justify the duplication of the program. We do not believe that Towson has provided any such justification, and we have found that no such justification exists. We find no educational justification for the duplication of a high-demand program at a historically Black institution. Should Towson's program operate, we are concerned that there would be harm to Morgan's existing program. The two institutions are less than 5 miles apart, and with both programs providing in-person instruction, it is extremely likely that the approval of Towson's program would decrease enrollment in Morgan's program. Because both institutions are public, it is incumbent upon MHEC to determine if the state's resources are appropriately distributed among the state's public senior higher education institutions, and that the state is not funding duplicative programs at public institutions. The funding of duplicative programs harms the state. Because these programs are similar in content and resolution to prepare doctorally trained individuals in environmentally related research, it would be an inappropriate use of state funds to add a new doctoral program in environmental studies to the state's portfolio of academic programs. There's no economic benefit to the state by creating a new program 5 miles away from an existing one, and we do not believe that Towson's program would add anything new to the breadth of doctoral programs in environmental studies in all of Maryland. Approval of the program would further result in harm to the state, given the possibility of impeding the state's statutory responsibility for HBI enhancement and integration. While we recognize that Towson is also pursuing a higher Carnegie classification, approval of the program could hinder Morgan's goal of becoming an R1 institution. Moreover, as previously noted, we do not believe that denying Towson's proposed program harms the state's ability to combat climate change. Recently, Towson announced that it aspires to the R2 designation in the Carnegie classification. Towson currently has 6 doctoral programs and is awarded an annual average of approximately 32 doctoral degrees. In contrast, Morgan is currently designated as an R2 Carnegie classification, awarding about 61 doctoral degrees per year, and intends to become an R1 institution. Morgan, again, as noted earlier, is in the process of creating a Center for Urban and Coastal Climate Science Research, which would support research and advanced science and knowledge in the disciplinary area. While we recognize Towson's strength in environmental science at the bachelor's and master's level, we do not believe that the proposed doctoral level program is consistent with Towson's mission, as reviewed in 2018, nor consistent with Towson's goals and objectives as outlined in Towson's more recent 2023 Performance Accountability Report. With that, we conclude our initial presentation and we reserve the remaining time for rebuttal. Thank you. Chair Motz, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was. Thank you. I believe you finished at 10:42. You began at 10:21. So you spoke for 21 minutes and you have 9 minutes for rebuttal. Thank you. Towson, your first 10 minutes will be uninterrupted. Do you know whether you will be reserving time for rebuttal?
We'd like to do so if we have time remaining, Madam Chair, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. It is now 10:42. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Motz, and welcome to the members of the commission. We're pleased to be with you this morning. I also want to welcome our colleagues and friends from Oregon State who are here today, and thank Secretary Rye and Secretary Dow and the other members of the MPEC team. Let me ask also, if I might, Dr. Dow, we have sent to you the slides we're about ready to present. Given the virtual nature of this, I wonder if we might have those distributed to members of the commission as well so they have them for their record. The climate crisis is one of the most
I hope you're pausing the clock, Dr. Motz.
Yes, I'm not a doctor, but I am definitely pausing the clock. Did we just leave them?
We lost them. Yeah, it looked like we lost them.
Right.
All right,
Went off
thanks.
screen.
Yeah, give them a minute or so, they'll dial back.
And Towson did send their slides to be shared, so I wanted to offer the same opportunity to Morgan. If you have slides that you'd like to share, please send them to Debbie Ng on our team, on the MPEC team. Okay, President Ginsburg, we lost you for a minute there. Can you hear us?
You're on mute, Mark.
all right. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we
All right.
really, if you could start from the top, we really couldn't hear you we lost you early on, so please just go ahead and restart the clock.
As you said earlier, sometimes technology is our friend and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Again, welcome to all. And we're going to begin our presentation, if we might, with Dr. Allison Nguyen from the USM.
Okay, Dr. Rinn, the floor is yours. 10:44.
Thank you, Chair Motz, Secretary Ryan, Commissioners. I'll be brief and to the point. We respectfully disagree with the Secretary's analysis here. The USM process will not recommend to our Board of Regents to approve a program to submit to MPEC if it is duplicative of another degree program in our state. We're very intentional about that issue throughout our process. We're also very clear about the need to demonstrate workforce needs. I would ask, what are we trying to accomplish as a state? I would hope we're trying to support all of our institutions as they evolve and grow. To remain an innovative state, we must graduate students who are prepared to be leaders in tackling our most challenging issues. And we should be approaching these issues from multiple vantage points. The USM strategic plan calls out the importance of research and instruction related to climate change, and the TU proposed degree is aligned with this call to action. MHEC Student Commissioner Praise Aliode said this far more eloquently than I ever could at the end of the Student Success Symposium on Friday. This is not a zero-sum game. We can all be successful, and that is what is best for the state and for the students. And so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. Chair Motz, I guess we're having some difficulty getting our PowerPoint up on the screen. Do you mind pausing our time for a moment so we can see if we can
Yeah,
rectify that?
no
or-
problem. 10:46.
We may have to get out and rejoin again. We don't know. We tested earlier to see if we're working fine. So we're going to jump out and try to jump back.
Dr. Dow, did you raise your hand?
I can see, I believe I have a copy of the deck. I can see if I can quickly share my screen, if that would be helpful to the group.
It
Would you
looks
like
like
me-
Nelson may have jumped off again.
It dropped off again, yeah.
Okay, well, I can play back up if it does not work.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Once they come back, Dr. Dow, you may offer them.
I got a text from, says Emily can project the slides.
Okay.
Do we want, I mean,
Mr. President Ginsburg, if you can hear us, Dr. Dow from MHEC can project the slides if you'd like.
Yeah, we were just wondering that. Let's try it one more time and then Emily. if you
Okay.
want, that would be great.
She has the slide.
We don't
Can
seem to
somebody-
be able to have permission to share slides, it seems like.
Somebody give us.
Could you give us permission, Emily? That might help.
Everyone should have permission in the Google Meets. There's no prohibition.
Let's try one more time. If not, if you're able to put them up, that'd be good.
Happy to provide support. Yeah.
Okay, really sorry about that. Why don't you give?
She has a PDF.
Yeah, you have a PDF, I think.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, Emily, if you would try sharing the slides, that would be fabulous. Oh, that looks better. Okay, I think we're gonna go down to the third slide. Maybe ask her to do. Okay, and we'll just tell you when to change slides if that's all right. All right, take two. Sorry about that, Chair Motz.
That's all right. You've got 28 more minutes. It's
Glad to get
10:48.
Technology working. Once again, welcome to all. Especially want to welcome the members of the commission, the staff, and also our colleagues from Oregon State. As has been said several times this morning, the climate crisis is one of the most serious issues confronting Maryland, the United States, and indeed the world. News headlines continue to make this abundantly clear, and urgent action is needed. The Miller administration has warned that Maryland is the fourth most vulnerable state with respect to sea level rise. And more people with interdisciplinary academic training are needed to address the complex, multifaceted nature of climate change, and that need extends to our state. Next slide, please, Emily. Towson University's proposed doctoral program in sustainability and environmental change will meet the state's need by responding to the governor's executive order on climate and also the USM priorities for addressing the climate crisis. Importantly, the program would support Objective 9 and the Miller administration state plan, which we've all seen, which aims to make Maryland the leader in clean energy and also the greenest state in the nation. Our proposed program will supply our state with doctoral trained experts in the high need and evolving field of environmental sustainability. The SEC program is unlike any in the state, and we will use MHEC standard duplication analysis to demonstrate that the program is in fact not duplicative of Morgan State's excellent bioenvironmental sciences program, nor will it harm it. We have great respect for the academic programs at Morgan State, great respect for their faculty and leadership. Yet they are this program, and we are of the definitive view, and we will demonstrate this morning definitively that our two programs are in fact not duplicative of each other. And I might add that of all the other programs that Dr. Dowd mentioned in the state, none of the others objected to this, which highlights the independence and non-duplicative nature of it as well. Next slide, slide 5, please. TU is excited about the SEC program because it does build on our existing strengths in both teaching and research. The proposed program will serve our diverse student body of over 19,000, and today, TU's student body reflects the state's demographics. And we expect that the proposed program will help further to diversify Maryland's workforce in the field, the interdisciplinary field of environmental sustainability. Importantly, the proposed SEC program strongly aligns with Towson University's mission and our current strategic plan, both of which were disseminated last week at the Excellent MHEC Summit on Student Success. Now I'm pleased to invite our Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Melanie Perot, to further elaborate on this issue of our mission. Dr. Perot?
Good morning, everybody. MHEC communicated, next slide, please. MHEC communicated in its denial letter that it does not believe that, quote, the proposed program is consistent with Towson's mission as reviewed in 2018, nor consistent with Towson's goals and objectives as outlined in Towson's 2023 Performance Accountability Report, end quote. We strongly and assertively disagree with this finding. Per statute, our mission was submitted to and approved by the USM Board of Regents and subsequently submitted to MHEC in 2022. No communication from MHEC was received within the stipulated 30-day window, and therefore the 2022 mission statement was therefore approved consistent with Maryland law and applicable regulations. Next slide, please. We would also like to point out that TU's revised and current 2022 mission statement was in fact included in the 2023 Performance Accountability Report that was submitted by MHEC itself to the governor in January 2024, indicating both approval and acceptance. As recently as this past Friday, as President Ginsburg noted, our revised and current mission statement was included by MHEC in materials distributed at its Student Success Summits. Next slide, please. In the 2023 report, MHEC included TU's R2 aspiration and referenced our increased doctoral conferrals. Furthermore, since 2022, MHEC has approved 4 other TU PhD programs. The proposals for these approved PhD programs referred to the revised and current 2022 mission statement and emphasized our R2 aspiration. And in an April 2023 letter to TU, MHEC stated that, quote, we recognize that the production of doctoral students is essential to Towson's desire to achieve a higher research activity or R2 designation. Next slide, please. Our goal to achieve and sustain national eminence in research was also acknowledged in MHEC's 2023 Performance Accountability Report, shown here. And not once during its review of our other PhD programs has MHEC indicated any concern about the alignment of TU's mission statement with our stated research goals. Next slide, please. We would like to emphasize that during proposal preparation, TU performed due diligence in accordance with MHEC best practice, and we consulted with Maryland institutions. In particular, the discussions that TU had with MSU between April and July 2023 yielded optimism and excitement for both programs. We worked hard to distinguish our SEC program from others in the state, including Morgan State universities. It is important to emphasize that MSU and TU are not competitors. And with this in mind, we have developed a program that we believe would advance both universities with opportunities for research collaboration and innovation. Far from being a hindrance to Morgan State's research aspirations, the existence of TU's distinct program with its distinct approach will open up further research opportunities and collaborative grants that would not otherwise have been available to either institution alone. Next slide, please. My colleagues will present details of the distinctions between TU's program and MSU's program. But first, I would like to clarify that all PhD programs have 4 standard elements: required courses, elective courses, colloquia, and dissertation research in which students are closely guided by faculty. These elements are common to all PhD programs, including mine in colonial American history. We disagree with MHEC that the existence of these elements equals program duplication. The Secretary's denial letter suggests that they do. We will present standard duplication analysis using the available pre-July 1, 2024 MHEC regulations to reiterate and further clarify the distinctions between TU's Sustainability and Environmental Change Program and MSU's Bioenvironmental Sciences Program. Addressing the climate crisis is not a zero-sum game. Rather, multiple scholarly approaches which complement one another are required. Our program provides a distinct approach to the study of environmental sustainability that is unique in the state of Maryland. And I will now hand over to Dr. Kedziora to elaborate further.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much. Can you please advance to the next slide? And the next slide, please. Thank you. My name is Dr. Saya Kedziora, and I am an associate professor in geography and human geography in the College of Liberal Arts here at Towson University. And I also serve as assistant program director in environmental science and studies, our existing program here at Towson University. The MHEC denial materials that we received mislabel our program as an environmental science program when it is in fact an environmental studies program focusing on sustainability. Programs in sustainability are different from programs in environmental sciences because they are built on the three pillars of environmental studies, economics, and the social sciences. Our program in sustainability is therefore quite different from Morgan's program in bioenvironmental sciences, which they describe as the systematic study of the interactions between biological systems and the environment. Both programs are important and each has value in its own right. Yes, both programs use the term environment. And you've heard this term used broadly today in terms of talking about environmental related programs. But many different disciplines study environmental issues from vastly different perspectives, just like many different disciplines study society or the economy or culture or politics. These are very broad areas. Most importantly, the programs at Towson University and Morgan State would serve students with different interests. In fact, as you can see, we've developed our program in response to requests from students who have asked for a doctoral degree program in sustainability and environmental change. These are students who are not pursuing admission to Morgan State's program because our programs are not duplicative. Next slide, please. The difference between the programs at Towson University and Morgan State is first reflected in our very different SIP codes. As you can see on this slide, the assigned SIP codes are different. And this is not a cursory designation, but rather reflects genuine and important differences in the curriculum of the two programs. Morgan's program is classified as an environmental biology program, and our program is classified as an environmental studies program. These are two different areas of study, although they both engage with environmental issues. You can see this difference reflected in our curriculum. 100% of the coursework in Morgan's bioenvironmental science program is in STEM disciplines. This is in contrast to Towson University's program, where more than half of our courses are outside of the hard sciences. The SEC program combines scientific, social scientific, and humanities-linked approaches in the study of environmental change and sustainability. Next slide, please. You've also heard that both programs describe themselves as interdisciplinary, but this term is also used in very different ways. Interdisciplinarity simply refers to any combination of disciplines. And on this slide, we show the different disciplines that are included in our two programs. As you can see, Towson University's program draws from a far wider range of disciplines across all 6 of Towson University's colleges. These disciplines include human geography, my own, anthropology, economics, political science, geography, biology, philosophy, and more. This type of interdisciplinarity is characteristic of programs in environmental sustainability. In contrast, Morgan's program draws exclusively from this traditional STEM fields, as is characteristic of a program in environmental science. Next slide, please. These differences in interdisciplinarity are reflected in the expertise of the faculty in our two programs. And that is the information presented on this slide. Towson University's SEC program draws from faculty in a far broader range of disciplines, 50% of whom are outside of the College of Science and Mathematics. In contrast, Morgan's program draws 92% of its faculty from the School of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences, virtually entirely from the STEM disciplines. The expertise of faculty in each program informs the specialized doctoral level training and associated dissertation research of students. For example, a student who wants to study how nonprofit organizations work to facilitate post-disaster recovery from climate change-driven weather events would be able to do so with SEC faculty in Towson University's Department of Geography and Environmental Planning. And that's in our College of Liberal Arts. I myself, also from the College of Liberal Arts, have worked with students interested in careers in climate mitigation policy analysis, public participation in water quality governance, and community organizing against cases of environmental injustice. Students with these interests currently have no environmental studies doctoral programs to choose from within the state. And I'd really like to emphasize that. There is no doctoral program in the state of Maryland with the environmental studies zip code. This provides students with relevant training and research expertise to address sustainability related questions from a unique environmental studies rather than environmental science perspective. There's a reason that these zip codes are different. Our program has built a curriculum that pairs with our faculty expertise to afford this opportunity to such students. Next slide, please. As Provost Perot mentioned, the dissertation research of PhD students is closely guided by faculty. Indeed, students are drawn to PhD programs because of their interest in working with a particular faculty member or faculty members. The research foci of faculty in our two programs are distinct. So the two programs would draw on students with different research interests. On this slide, we present the research areas corresponding to Morgan's faculty members with the highest number of dissertation theses submitted in their program in recent years. We also show corresponding SEC faculty who mentored the highest number of master's students or have research projects in sustainability at Towson University. Two distinctive features of our proposed program are, one, that students are required to have both social science and natural science faculty on their dissertation committees, and two, that students must address the three pillars of sustainability that I mentioned earlier: social science, environmental studies, and economics in their dissertation research by examining the broader social environmental dimensions of their work. These two requirements differentiate our programs even further. Next slide, please. Applicants to our SEC program would have different academic interests than their colleagues at Morgan State. Our program is designed to attract students interested in studying environmental sustainability from an interdisciplinary natural science and social science perspective, using approaches from economics, the natural sciences, and the social sciences. This would include many students, perhaps a majority, from non-science backgrounds. Again, there is currently no doctoral program in the state that meets this need. Morgan's program, in contrast, requires students to have a strong background in the basic sciences, including biology, chemistry, math, and physics. And it emphasizes both statistics and computer science coursework and competency. This is necessary, and it makes sense because Morgan students conduct dissertation research in STEM fields from STEM perspectives. We would like to note that applicants to Towson University's SEC program who wish to focus on STEM research topics where Morgan State faculty have expertise would be referred by us to Morgan's program, as has been our practice in the past. But students with undergraduate and master's degrees in environmental studies, sustainability, geography, political science, and other non-science fields would not meet the entrance requirements or program outcomes of Morgan's bioenvironmental science program. These are the students that we seek to serve. The differences in academic interests of the students entering the two programs, the faculty advisors who mentor them, and the research that they would ultimately conduct would lead to differences in graduate outcomes. Graduates of the two programs would have distinct skills and expertise, which would in turn determine the kind of jobs for which they would be prepared. Dr. Moore will now provide more details about the differences in the program's curricula and outcomes.
Next slide, please.
So before you begin, Towson has about 9 minutes left.
Yeah, go fast. Good morning, I'm Dr. Joel Moore, Professor of Geosciences and Program Director of the current Environmental and Science Studies program. I'd like to briefly describe how our curriculum change differs at TU from the Morgan State program. On the left, you can see our 4 required courses, 3 of which are focused on sustainability, and we also have 1 required methods course. On the left, you can see Morgan's courses, all of which are focused in biology and chemistry or STEM disciplines. Next slide, please. For the research methods course that's required at Towson, students have 12 courses from which they can select. Over 80% of those are in the social and behavioral sciences. The elective methods courses offered at Morgan State are all in the hard sciences. And so Towson and Morgan students will receive different research training, again, associated with their faculty mentors as well. Next slide, please. Difference in the two programs is evident. Further comparison comes from our electives and electives at Towson. We have 73, as already mentioned. 51% are in colleges outside of sciences, liberal arts, business, economics, and health professions, including 27% in geography in our College of Liberal Arts. By contrast, the electives at Morgan State are all in the School of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences. Next slide, please. Given the differences in curriculum and the unique and distinct dissertation research topics in the two programs, possibility of a Towson and Morgan State student pursuing an identical curriculum plan is 0. Next slide, please. These distinct curricular paths will prepare TU students for a broad range of jobs. According to a 2023 report by the Aspen Institute, post-secondary teachers requiring doctoral degrees are among the top 10 jobs, good jobs by volume. Most of these jobs in this category require graduate degrees, and those with training at the doctoral level will continue to grow. Because of the broad nature of our interdisciplinary environmental science and studies program and the sustainable environmentally challenged masters, our students, when they graduate, will be eligible to apply for a wide range of disciplines and departments that all touch on environmental sustainability. At the bottom, highlight 2 programs with open faculty positions in Maryland and adjacent states. Next slide, please. Faculty positions only represent a small segment of the job opportunities that are available to graduates from our proposed program. Newly created positions not yet identified by the Maryland Department of Labor are in that rapidly evolving field of sustainability, including chief sustainability officers, sustainability analysts, and policy experts in government, corporate, and nonprofit sectors. This slide would provide evidence for strong growth in sustainable jobs. Next slide. So in summary. All right. Well, thank you so much to my colleagues. Let me close by saying that we plan to graduate a maximum of 6 to 8 doctoral level experts per year in these in-demand, interdisciplinary sustainability jobs of today, but also for the future. Important point. Our proposed program is fully aligned with the Moore-Miller administration's 2004 state plan and the USM priorities for climate action. And we believe, and I'm sure you would concur, that this meets important statewide needs. It is unlike any other program in the state, based upon the clear distinctions my colleagues have provided in curricular content, in zip codes and admission requirements and faculty expertise, even in the dissertation topics and research that students would engage, and in particular the graduate outcomes that they would require. The program responds to student interests. It fills a gap in the state's academic program offerings, and it would prepare a diverse cohort of graduates for high need, high growth, sustainability jobs, and further would diversify the sustainability sector in our state. In summary, we assert and have demonstrated clearly in our presentation and also in our written materials, and I hope you'll have a chance to look at this PowerPoint as part of your deliberations, that Towson University's proposed program in sustainability and environmental change is neither duplicative of, nor does it harm any other program in the state of Maryland. Chairman Motz, we thank you for your consideration. Members of the commission, members of the staff, we thank you for your consideration, and certainly we'd be pleased to entertain any questions that you might have. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, President Ginsburg, to you and your team. You have about 4 minutes left for rebuttal after Secretary Rye goes, but I did want to offer my fellow commissioners an opportunity to ask any questions.
Sure.
Dr. Dukes.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the presentation. Could you talk about what % of students are likely to come from Maryland and those from out of state for such a program?
I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead. Provost.
Thank you. If past is precedent, and as a historian, I have to believe that, most of our PhD students today are from the state of Maryland. And so, in fact, a large number are our current TU undergraduates and master's students. And importantly, our statistics show that not only do our graduates come largely from Maryland, but they also stay in Maryland at a very high rate.
Yeah, I would even add that our data suggests that about 90% of our students come from Maryland, but more than 90% of all of our graduates remain in the state. We are an economic engine. We're an engine of workforce development. We're an engine of opportunity for the state of Maryland.
Thank you.
Commissioner Agu.
Good morning to the Towson team. Thanks for being with us. Question that I have, and I'm partially looking at the statement from the Secretary's team. I believe it's going to be page 8. And then I think it was slide 23 in your presentation. I'm looking at kind of the workforce needs. And so if I look at the Secretary's statement, basically their argument is growth in broadly green jobs, but that the increase in the amount that need a doctoral degree is relatively small, 227 versus in the thousands for some of the others. Just talk about how you answer that in terms of, you've made the argument that basically the workforce needs more workers who have that degree. But looking at these numbers, and also even looking at the numbers that you said, I didn't quite see the match between jobs projected that require a doctoral degree and necessarily what you will produce. Just kind of rationalize that for me.
Sure, it's a great question. And again, I point that the analysis from MHEC is looking at environmental science. And we assert that this is environmental studies, which is a much broader program. And therefore, what they use as the job comparison should be broader. So I think we've shown that using the broad policy analysis, geography, historians even could be attracted to this and go back and teach. But also, it's really important to note that as a rapidly evolving field, PhD students and PhD graduates are job creators. They are the creators of the jobs of the future that we can't even imagine today. So in fact, if you use a jobs report that was created in 2020 to guess what you might have in 2024, you certainly wouldn't put an AI person in there as a top job, right? And so these are really fast evolving fields. And so we expect that our graduates will be at the cutting edge of this job creation and can serve in, again, new fields like Chief Sustainability Officer that really require a truly interdisciplinary background. And so these are new jobs that are being created even as we speak. And we'd like to be there and have our students fill those needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for your presentation. I would like, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All
yes.
right, thank you. I would like to know what your plans are in terms of having opportunities for students to work with either other agencies or other partners in environmental studies overall, given your proposed curriculum.
Well, I can say that this is Chris Solis, as former director of environmental science and studies, professor in biology. And I'd say that we have good relationships with lots of state agencies and nonprofits that employ our former students. And even they, I would point out, have asked when we're going to have a PhD program, because not only are there new jobs for PhD students, but PhD students are more competitive for jobs that may not require a PhD, but the applicant would benefit from having one. And then I think that the program appeals to a wide swath of agencies and nonprofit organizations that cover the spectrum, especially on the study side, because we're going to see more and more need for sustainability officers and sustainability folks in corporations, in government agencies. We just found out another internship opportunity, for example, with the convention center in Baltimore. And so we're going to see more and more, as Dr. Perot said, opportunities coming about because of the obvious need for these types of skills and interdisciplinary prepared PhD students.
And
And a number of positions that are open currently in the corporate and nonprofit sectors, while they don't necessarily require a PhD, many of them prefer graduate training. So numerous of those positions that are open in the region currently where a PhD would be highly sought after, even if it isn't required.
And the piece that I was going to add is that I think that in some sense, some of the problems that you see in terms of the classification of different jobs comes from, I think, the slower uptake in the social sciences to define the work that we're doing with terms like environmental studies and sustainability. Environmental science is a really long established field, and you've seen, of course, positions in for faculty and in other areas advertised using those terms. One of the slides that we showed illustrated that there's thousands of currently open and currently advertised faculty positions that use the term sustainability, and only now are we seeing a majority of those are falling in social sciences departments. One of the things additionally that we're hearing from a lot of our community partners and government agencies is that they're really looking for students or graduates with those social science skills. So I'm talking about things like communication, social science surveys, the ability to work closely with community members, doing oral histories and in-depth interviews. These are methodological approaches that we associate with the social sciences and are becoming more and more in demand outside of jobs in academia, as the way that our governments work and the way that nonprofits work are changing in terms of how they emphasize community engagement.
Thank you. Commissioner Warmack.
Yes, good morning, and thank you all for the presentation. I apologize for my voice. I'm just getting over laryngitis. I have two questions. Can you remind me again, who would be drawn to the Towson program in Maryland? What students? Your own master's degree students or students from across the state in the sciences and the social science programs?
Yeah, I think both. Actually, certainly a number of students here who are trained at levels below the doctoral level, I think, who have an interest in coming to the program. But there's not a single program in the state that has the breadth of engagement that this program in sustainability and environmental change has. And so I believe there'll be students from many other of the institutions, public and private in the state, who would seek to join us, and probably also students from outside of the state. But keep in mind, 90% or more of the students at Towson University are from the state. 90% or more of our entire student body stay in the state. And so I believe this program will be very Maryland-centric and would serve students coming from all sectors of Maryland and also from other places as well. But certainly it will be very Maryland-centric. Yeah, and a reminder too, it's doctorate programs tend to be relatively small. We're anticipating somewhere between 6 to 8 students a year admitted to the program. And so that would serve a unique niche, I think, within the state.
And
Second question too, though. Yeah.
I had another question about the interdisciplinary aspect. So in the slides, I'm sorry, I have it open on my other screen. There is a STEM component to your program. So what would happen if you actually took out the STEM component and you still delivered the program in terms of social science, food, water, energy? What would happen if you took out the chemistry, the biology, et cetera? Because I see those as the same program with the MSU program. So I'm just wondering how would your program stand without those aspects?
That's a great question, and what I would say is this is exactly what makes our program unique, is that it trains students and PhD graduates with both the natural sciences and the STEM piece of it, but it also makes it's required that they go outside of the STEM fields, that they go into things like economics, business, health sciences, history, all of these other areas. And so that is why it's very different from any other program in the entire state. So our graduates will be conversant in both approaches. And we think this is really important for climate change and sustainability, because this is it needs an interdisciplinary approach. It needs people who are conversant in, say, business and economics, but who also understand a bit of the biology, right? These are the people who are going to lead our efforts to combat climate change. And so having the best of both worlds, really 3 worlds in this case, will prepare our graduates for really what is the immense challenge of our lifetime. And we really think that is something that's dramatically distinct from Morgan State's, and as we've shown, distinct from any other program in the state, as we receive no other objections whatsoever.
Well, let me just add to that for a moment, that it's often been said by scholars around the world that the biggest vexing problems, the greatest challenges we face as a population on the planet Earth today, will not be solved within a discipline. They'll be solved across disciplines. When you think, for example, about the United Nations Sustainability Goals, the 21 goals identified by the United Nations, each of those will only be solved by cross-disciplinary, transdisciplinary engagement. This is where the fields are going, and this program would be unique in the state to train people across disciplines rather than within disciplines to approach some of these biggest vexing challenges in ways that we haven't yet even imagined. And so I think it's incumbent upon us in the state of Maryland to train people to solve problems and to do so in a way that's beyond the typical and current parameters that we have. That's what this program does.
Can I ask just one more question?
Sure.
So is that what's happening at your bachelor's degree program? Have you set that up so that it is an interdisciplinary program, even at the bachelor's level, building up to the PhD program?
So yes, and that is how the undergraduate program is set up. That kind of splits into science and studies, but whether someone's on the science side or the study side, they need to take a fair amount of coursework from the other side. So someone in environmental studies has to take physical geology, and then biology that's focused on ecology and evolution. And then someone who's on the science side has to take political science or economics, has to take environmental policy and a number of different courses. And so the PhD is similar in that 25% of the elected coursework has to be in a different area outside of the research area to really strengthen those interdisciplinary.
Yeah, this doctoral program really builds on the strengths and builds on the currency of other programs at the university, which also makes it really unique, which we think is a real asset.
Thank you very much for
Sure.
answering the questions.
Absolutely.
Dr. Dukes?
Yes, thank you. Thank you again, Chair Motz. I have, my first question is for either Secretary Rye or Dr. Dow. The data that you
Dr.
presented.
Dukes, sorry, not to get too procedural, but I think
Okay.
we have to finish the questions for Towson.
Okay.
Then give the agency its rebuttal time, and then we'll have questions for them. And just to be clear, we have gone way over. Of course, we want to be fair to everybody. So each of the three parties will have ample time for commissioners to ask questions, just to be very transparent and fair. But
So,
Dr. Dukes, if you have
fine.
questions for Towson, now
Yes,
is
I
the
do.
time. Okay.
So I'm going to then rephrase who I'm going to ask the question, and I'll ask it to Towson.
Okay.
I'm interested in your perspective of the labor market data that was presented and what Maryland needs. I believe that there was a chart that talked about Maryland did not need any more doctoral students. What it needed were more at the bachelor's level. And I'm going to give you all the questions in a row. The second question is with regard to, I know that there was made mention of the governor's interest in climate change. So do we currently turn students away from the Morgan program? Have they reached their maximum number of students eligible for the doctoral program? So I'll stop there, and then I'll come back later if there's an opportunity to speak to the staff about their presentation.
And Dr.
Thank
Dukes, you will have a chance to ask Morgan questions as well. So that last question.
We'll
Morgan may be
reserve
in
for Morgan.
Yeah, I think that Morgan would be in the
That's
best position to answer that.
Yeah,
So,
So I'll tackle the jobs question, because as we've asserted, again, we think that it looked at the 227 faculty jobs was only a slice of what our graduates, our PhD graduates, would be eligible to apply for. And so when you look at the broader evidence that we supplied in our presentation, and I would encourage you to have a look at that resource, there's a huge swath of opportunities here for this specific program. Again, studies versus science. That's a really critical area for everybody to understand. And so while we are confident that our students will fill the state need, they will also generate more jobs in these particular fields. As we are talking about growing, a number of commissioners have asked whether we would just grow our undergraduate or our master's programs in environmental studies. But it's important to know that if you expand those, and we expect that student interest will grow there, it also requires more faculty positions, specifically, again, in environmental studies, which is distinct from environmental science. So we would expect that number to grow. Again, being really forward-looking rather than looking necessarily towards the past. And so we're, in the environmental studies area, we're confident that we can serve with our 6 to 8 students a year, and that the students that are drawn to our program are distinct from those who would be drawn to Morgan's program. And for those who would be more effective going to Morgan's program, we will continue to recommend our students go there as we have in the past, and we will continue to do so.
Let me add 2 things. One is that the analysis that the staff did, although we respect the analysis, we think it's too limited. We think that the universe is far bigger than what was presented. But even more importantly, we're seeking not just to train students in this program for the jobs of today, we're training them to enter the jobs of tomorrow, to define and create the jobs of tomorrow, to fill the jobs that almost certainly will come about as new vistas open, as we continue to engage and think about solving this vexing, challenging issue of climate change. And so we can't be limited of what we see on paper today. We have to be envisioning what could happen tomorrow and the years ahead, and that's what doctorally trained students do.
Thank you, House and team. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, we'll go back to Secretary Rye. You've got 9 minutes. Yes, thank you, Towson. 9 minutes of rebuttal, and also I think at least Dr. Dukes has a question for you. Do you want to start off, Dr. Dukes, ma'am?
I can, and it was about number one, how recent was the labor data that was presented? And then number two, my question is, how does this comport with the governor's call for focus on climate change?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Dukes. I will need to fact check the exact date of our labor projections, but it is very recent. I want to say it's within the past year. Those projections have been updated. But I can give me a minute and I can come back if that's okay to fact check that for you. Clearly working towards environmental change, whether we're talking about clean energy or ensuring that we are leveraging alternative energy resources, is a priority for not only Governor Moore, but for additionally the Maryland Department of Energy or Environment and other organizations. Where we come down is we do not see evidence that doctorally trained individuals are needed to move that industry forward. What we need are entry-level folks who understand the mechanics behind solar energy, who understand how to revise HVAC systems so that they are clean energy, that they are working in those spaces to move our day-to-day life in a way that we are using sustainable resources as opposed to relying on our historical uses of energy resources. So that's where we're struggling with this proposal and how it does lead to those workforce outcomes. So we completely agree. There is a need for expansion in this field. We need more people. There's evidence for more jobs, but not necessarily at the doctoral level.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right, Dr. Dye, you have a little time for rebuttal if there's anything else you wanted to say.
Please, if that's okay, if we can do that real quick. So we wanted to highlight, we've danced around this idea of environmental science versus environmental studies. Our read of the proposal is that it is both. It is not neither one or the other, but it is both. As evident by the fact that Towson highlights science-based occupations as potential occupations in which graduates would be available for. So that's one reason why we do kind of capture this into an environmental science perspective. Similarly, as Towson demonstrated in their presentation, it does lean on hard science courses. There's inclusion of chemistry, biology, physics, and the like. So there is a science element to their proposal, and we see it as both an environmental science and an environmental studies program. Second, regarding workforce need, this was kind of new information talking about academic jobs and the potential of academic jobs for Towson's proposed graduates. We don't necessarily see that information in the proposal as submitted. So we would want to do a little bit of a deeper dive. Let me say this explicitly. Any institution is always welcome to revise their proposal and resubmit it based on these discussions. So we are open to that possibility and welcome that as another path forward, revising their proposal to further distinguish it from Morgan's existing program as well as the others. I'd also like to highlight,
if I could just jump in, it looks like Commissioner Serrano has a question.
Sure.
It's just a quick clarification question. So for what we know now for the Morgan State program, do you know how many graduates are coming out every year? And then how many do we anticipate from Towson's program?
Absolutely. So we anticipate from Towson's program, based on their proposal, 6 to 8 graduates. And recent graduates from Morgan's program is included in our statement. And I'll let Morgan correct me, but from memory, it is about 6 to 8 students as well over the past couple of years. But I can pull that up and fact check that for you as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Any other
And
questions?
Morgan.
Sorry to interrupt. It's tough with the technology. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, Dr. Dow, you have about a minute more of rebuttal, and then we're going to turn it back.
Great. Okay, I want to reiterate our full support for Towson's existing undergraduate and graduate program. We understand that there is, we believe that there is significant opportunity to grow those programs to meet the workforce need around climate change, around environmental issues, and ensuring that we have a well-educated workforce for tomorrow's industries around environmental science. Per House Bill 1244, the recent legislation that changes expectations regarding academic program review in Maryland, I want to highlight that we are now expected to prioritize 3 things: meeting state and regional workforce need, preserving existing programs that are able to meet those state and regional workforce needs, and collaboration between institutions of higher education. And so back to Secretary Rye's welcoming or opening remarks, we take that collaboration very seriously. We also take very seriously that we recognize that there is a workforce need, but we do not believe that it is at the doctoral level. And we see that there is opportunity between these 2 institutions to collaborate using their existing programs to better serve the state. And with that, I will stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Dow, and to the whole team. It looks like Commissioner Serrano has another question.
Just to add on this. So if we have 6 to 8 graduates from Morgan and we have 6 to 8 graduates from Towson, what is the point of saturation? At what point do we say, do we have too many graduates? And how do we know that that point could be 20, 16, 35, 100? Where do we draw that line?
I think that's a hard question. Thank you for that question. I think it's a hard question for us to answer, because I turn back to there is little evidence that we need, other than faculty in environmental studies and environmental science. There's little evidence that we need doctorally trained individuals in this field. Certainly, we need doctorally trained individuals in biology, in environmental engineering. Those are different fields in which the proposed program does not lead to. So it's hard for us to talk about a potential saturation point when I don't have evidence that there is need at the doctoral level for trained professionals.
So presumably, if there was a report somewhere that says we're short of faculty in these areas in the DMV area, or maybe in Maryland, maybe there's a government agency that's relocated to Maryland that needs doctoral levels, that would set a big bright number of like 30, and just say, well, there is no problem having 6 to 8 graduates from each school, right?
Correct. That would be our position.
Okay.
It looks like Commissioner Howe has a question, but is having trouble with her mute button. Commissioner, would you like to, you typed that in the chat. Would you mind just typing your question in the chat? Is that too complicated? No? Okay. All right. Any other commissioners? Questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Rye and Dr. Dow and your team.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Agu.
Sorry, one other quick question. Sorry, I just want to clarify data. On slide or page 10 of your brief, I just want to make sure I have this right. So I have the numbers for, it's a slide on existing relevant doctoral programs. Just simply to extend Commissioner Serrano's question, for the other programs, it looks like they're also producing between, I'm looking at the numbers, 5 to 6, 5 to 10 doctoral graduates per year. Do I have those numbers correct? I just want to make sure I have those.
Correct. Yep.
Except for University of Maryland College Park, which looks like closer to now in the recent years, closer to like between 15 and 20.
Right. Exactly. Yep. That table is based on degrees reported to our agency on an annual basis.
I just want to clarify that data. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners for the agency? All right, thank you, Dr. Ryan, Dr. Dow. According to our batting order here, Towson now has time for rebuttal since all of the questions from commissioners took up Towson's rebuttal time. By my notes, you have 4 minutes for rebuttal if you have anything else you'd like to say, President Ginsburg and team. I don't know if you can hear me.
Thank you. Thank you. We would like to use our time. I would just like to start by saying, as Dr. Dow just noted, science is an element of our program. It is not the program entirely. And that's just a critical distinction for everybody to understand. And when you look at the portfolio of other programs in the state, none of which objected because they are environmental science programs, which is a distinct field. We've also repeatedly heard today that the undergraduate programs should grow for entry-level positions. And we ask, of course, well, who's going to teach those students? And that's going to be our graduates, because again, our broad-based interdisciplinary PhD will create the faculty who can teach environmental studies, whereas Morgan State's environmental science program does not for environmental studies. Students have been requesting this program, and the students who have been requesting it would not necessarily be admitted into the environmental science program, nor would they succeed if they were there. We would be absolutely happy to support the growth of Morgan State University's program. Students who are seeking a PhD in that field will be referred to Morgan State University, as we have done in the past. It's also important to reiterate the significant role that the individual faculty's research agenda makes in a PhD program, which makes it distinct from an undergraduate program. So, for example, in my own career, I am a historian, and I chose to go to the College of William and Mary for my PhD, specifically to work with Dr. James Axtell because of his research agenda. And that's the same here. So students looking for a more engineering approach and a more scientific approach, studying nano studies, certainly would be better suited to Morgan State's program, and we would absolutely send them in that direction. We look forward to collaborating with Morgan State University on research that requires the distinctive expertise of these unique programs. So we have been collaborative in the past. We were collaborative in the creation of this program, and we really look forward to serving the state of Maryland with our unique and our distinct PhD program, and working alongside our colleagues at Morgan State to be able to do grant work and research, once again, that we would not be able to do separately. The existence of this program and the existence of our faculty and the collaborations that we know will ensue will actually lift up both universities. So we thank you for your time and have answer any more questions.
Thank you, Dr. Perot, and to the whole Towson team. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Serrano.
Kind of going back to my same question that I had before, like if we were to integrate environmental studies at the undergraduate level and like all aspects, what do you have a number that it would require, like a gap of professors? You mentioned that there's a need for professors, but like where, how much, like what number? Analysis.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so as we've demonstrated, there currently is no PhD program in the entire state that prepares anybody to be an environmental studies professor. And so what we're talking about is creating 6 to 8 PhD graduates in any given year, and understand that some of those graduates will go into industry, some of those graduates will go on to start their own businesses, some will go on to work for the government or nonprofits, but others will choose to become faculty. And we would know, again, imagine you grow your environmental studies program undergraduate program by even 20 or 30 students, typically that would require us to hire another faculty member. So if we were to grow across the state, environmental studies undergraduates to the tune of several hundred students, that's absolutely going to require dozens of faculty to be created in the next few years. And again, very distinctly environmental studies faculty with this different interdisciplinary focus that we have at Towson University's proposal.
Let me just add also that I want to agree with Dr. Dow that we are very supportive of continued growth in our undergraduate program and our master's program. That's mutually exclusive and very distinct from the need for training at the doctoral level. Training more and more students at the bachelor's level in this important field certainly is important, but that does not mitigate the need. It does not make the need any less for doctorally trained people to take jobs, not just in academic, but in industry and government and nonprofits. And so I want to respectfully both agree and disagree, Emily. I think you're right, but at the same time, I think that's not sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient to grow the field and to grow the resources in these disciplines.
And we'd like to draw attention to Appendix A of our presentation that shows the active jobs in environmental studies.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Warmack. I think you're on mute. It's not just your laryngitis.
And you can hear me.
There you go.
I had one last question. What is the proposed cost of your program? Tuition, just your tuition.
It would be the same tuition that any graduate student pays at the Towson University.
We'll get that for you shortly.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Yeah, if I may, typically in PhD programs, students don't pay tuition. The tuition is covered by assistantships where they work
Sure.
as a assistant
Right,
and graduate assistant.
I have the exact number. So TU's charge is $702 per credit for in-state students. And Morgan State's is $566 per credit. So the total, if you're covering it all yourselves, would be $42,120 for Towson University's, whereas Morgan State's would be $33,960.
Yeah, I would say too that the standard tuition, this is a matter of university, USM, and state policy for what tuition charges are. Obviously, too, at our public universities, but it would not be a distinction between the tuition for this program and other graduate programs here at TU.
Thank you. Commissioner Warmack, did you have any other questions? Any other commissioners have questions? All right, well, thank you to Dr. Ginsburg and the Towson team.
Thank you, Sharon Watts.
Next up is Morgan State University. Morgan State will have the same affording of time that the other parties had, 10 interrupted minutes to present. And then as much time as commissioners have for questions, we will give you time to answer questions. So President Wilson, Dr. Wilson, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Chair Moats and Secretary Rye, Dr. Dow, all of the MHEC commissioners, to the Towson team, and to my Morgan colleagues. It is indeed an honor to come before this commission to talk about the great work we're doing at Morgan and how that great work has already landed us as a high research institution and on the cusp of becoming a very high research institution in the state of Maryland, becoming Maryland's third public very high research institution. I will be actually issuing an editorial in the Baltimore Sun, hopefully soon, indicating that when Carnegie releases the classifications in January of 2025, Morgan will miss joining UMBC in College Park as R1s by only 6 doctoral students. Therefore, every PhD program that is duplicated at Morgan could actually stand in the way of the university's ability to continue to graduate those doctoral students in a way that not only would get us to where College Park and UMBC are, but it will absolutely could impact our ability to remain there. So with that said, let me say that with all due respect to our colleagues at another institution, Towson, based on what we've heard, Morgan State University still stands firmly behind the decision made by Secretary Rye that the program that Towson is proposing is unreasonably and unnecessarily duplicative of the Morgan PhD program. So with that said, I want to make that's 3 very quick points, and I'm going to turn this over to our provost, Dr. Yu, our dean, Dean Shomwo, and the program chair, Dr. Fan. And Madam Chair, we will be cognizant of the time. So first, quick points. Number 1, Morgan State University takes very, very seriously the whole notion of program duplication. We understand the history of this. We have to take it seriously, given the unbelievably lengthy litigation that occurred in the state that ultimately led to the legislative settlement. So we take that very seriously. Number 2, much as you heard from the USM, the Morgan Board of Regents will not entertain the action on a new program at Morgan unless we can demonstrate to the Academic and Student Affairs Committee of the Board of Regents first that we have done our homework and that no program that we are proposing is unnecessarily or unreasonably duplicative of any program in the state. Number 3, I have been at Morgan for almost 15 years, and during that time, we have initiated, I think, close to 50 new academic programs, of which I believe 20 to 25 of them have been doctoral programs. I believe up until perhaps 2 or 3 years ago, we had not received one objection from any institution in the state. Not one, because we've done our homework and we've made sure that the programs that we were bringing forth were unique programs, high demand programs, and they were not duplicative of programs from College Park, even to Johns Hopkins. Next, you've heard about climate change. We have that as a high priority at Morgan. The governor has funded at Morgan, as you've heard, a state-funded research center that we are standing up with new tenure track faculty. You may not have heard, may not understand that we have a campus, we have a second campus in Maryland, in Southern Maryland, that is devoted to environmental sustainability and coastal policy in St. Leonard, a completely separate campus that we are tying environmental change to from a kind of a coastal perspective to urban sustainability, urban climate change. That is all designed based on the governor's absolutely understanding what Morgan is doing in the climate area, both in St. Leonard and what we are doing in the urban metropolitan area. With our quest to become nationally the institution that could give birth to the nation's 18th federal lab. That's what we're marching toward, is a national federal lab, number 18, that will be devoted to this area of coastal sustainability, urban environmental climate, that Morgan State University would hope to position itself to lead. Not just becoming the first HBCU to do that, but becoming one of the few institutions in the nation to lead a federal lab, like Sandia, like Los Alamos. That's our vision. And then last, we absolutely embrace a collaboration with Towson. You'll hear this in our response. The collaboration is nothing new. It is a dual degree program. It is a program where the students at Towson, you've heard that they actually get their BS degree in environmental science. They can come on to Morgan to do a PhD. We have a dual program like this with Purdue. We have a dual program with Carnegie Mellon. We are in discussion with Brown University. Why can't we have a dual program where the students want to pursue a BS, MS, PhD? They do the BS, MS at Towson, and then 3 minutes later, they're on the Morgan campus. It makes no sense for that not to happen when we are so close. So we embrace that form of collaboration. and we welcome that opportunity. So with that, I'm going to toss this to Provost Yu, and then to Dean Paul Shongwu, and then to Dr. Finn, and hopefully we'll be done in the 10-minute time, and we'll be in a position to respond to any questions the commissioners have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Under these regulations, Morgan, the objecting institution, the objecting institution, Morgan, only has 10 minutes. And so there are about 3 minutes left for the Morgan team, but then unlimited time for questions. The regulations will soon be changing, but that's what's guiding us today. So Dr. Yu, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Well, because of short time, I just leave that time to Dr. Fan to give a very brief presentation, which was also sent to Ms. Ng to be shared with the commission.
Yes.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, and the commissioners did receive both the presentations from Towson and Morgan, so thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick. Thank you, Commissioner, for this opportunity for us to present our objection to Towson University's proposed PhD program in sustainability and environmental change. We believe Towson's proposed PhD program substantially overlapped with our existing bioenvironment science PhD program. And although they withdrew their initial proposal in 2023, the revised proposal still did not address our concern. We're going to outline our concern from 3 perspectives. The first one is the interdisciplinary nature of our PhD program. Basically, we believe Towson's proposal significantly understates our interdisciplinary nature of our current PhD program. This suggesting more MSU's bioenvironmental science PhD program is heavily focused on the biological side with additional electives from physics and chemistry. However, as the only such graduate program in the state of Maryland, our program has been and always maintain a highly interdisciplinary program that covers almost most of the environmental science and research there. Our program involves many academic department units across Morgan campus. And here it is the list of the academic department units across Morgan, which provide our students many different course offering and research opportunities. The students can take courses across all these academic departments, not only on those kind of elective courses on our program catalog. And the students have been conducting research from other departments of the school, like the School of Public Health, School of Engineering. This one also shows our program faculty have a wide range of the expertise that from the biological science, physics, climate science, math, computer engineering, public health, community engagement, coastal and marine science. So this is just a list. You know that Towson also mentioned that we lack of the social science. It is not true. You know, in the question answer section, I can give you some kind of example that we also conducting the interdisciplinary social study, how it's going to affect the environment. The second concern is the similar program curriculum and structure that basically is the 2 programs pretty much have a very, very similar program curriculum and structure. The third concern we have is related to the high demand program at the historically Black institution that in their initial Towson University proposal, it states that our program does not appear to be a high demand program relative to other PhD programs at Morgan. However, in the revised proposal, this statement is just removed without any further discussion. And I want to demonstrate here is that our program is a high demand program and it continue grow significantly, over the last couple of years. So our enrollment increased significantly. Also that our program has been very successful creating new program and acquire the various sources of the funding to give our students the interdisciplinary education and research programs, such as the new Center for the Urban and Coastal Climate Science Research, the Coastal Science and Policy Bachelor Degree Program, and we also have the funding from the DOE and the NSF, large-scale funding to support the student research and education activity there. So overall, we believe because of the close proximity between the two institutions, the duplication of the program going to hurt Morgan in terms it's going to reduce the enrollment, and it's also going to reduce the funding and the resource that affecting our education and the growth. So that is my really short statement.
Thank you, sir. You just met the 10 minutes. Excellent. We appreciate your presentation. And as I said, there will be unlimited time for questions from the commissioners. Commissioners, Dr. Dukes, I believe you had a question earlier for Morgan.
Yes, I did. And thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wilson and your colleagues at Morgan. I was asking, what did you have the displeasure of turning away students from the doctoral program?
I can answer that question.
Dr. Yu?
Yes, we have not turned away any students who qualify. No, we don't.
And Commissioner Dukes, could I just add to that? We are currently receiving, as a result of the legislative settlement, about $24 million a year, which a portion of that is designed to enable Morgan to respond to increased demand for high demand programs. And so if we were to see a higher demand for a program, if you will, on the part of students, we will have the resources then to tap in order to respond to that demand, which is what we've done with some of the dollars already, which is why you're seeing some additional growth in some of our existing PhD programs.
And then my second question is, do you have any responses to the labor market data that was provided by the department relative to, is there a greater need for individuals who are taking up the mantle for climate change and sustainability? So I'm just asking, do you agree with the data that was presented?
Could you chime in? So I'm not that far in the weeds. However, as we get our center up and going, which is, of course, designed to do that, is to look at this at a much, much more micro level. Certainly, we'll be looking at this for a long time, because the center is not in existence on grant funding. These are permanent funds designed to grow this area in our state of Maryland significantly. But I don't think at this point that the team here for Morgan would have access to those data, but let me not speak for you, Dr. Fan or Dr. Yu.
So let me try to answer. Yeah, Dr. Trudeau?
Yeah, I may just add to what the president has said. Really, the establishment of the Center for Urban and Coastal Climate Science Research has a mission to address the most pressing and vexing challenges associated with climate change and its effects on human health and the ecosystem and the economy and the health and well-being of the people of Maryland. So we're trying to really leverage on that new center to conduct innovative research to be able to identify and characterize the sources of air pollutants, model the environmental effect and transport, and assess the environmental, economic, and health benefits of various pollution control strategies. We're also trying to investigate how exposure to various air, water, and food contaminants resulting from climate-induced changes affect human health, and how social determinants of health influence the susceptibility of various population groups to such climate hazards. We also want to assess the impact of climate change on vulnerable communities and work with them to develop data-driven strategy to increase resilience and adaptation to climate change. We also want to conduct research to understand how climate change and anthropogenic activities affect water quality and quantity, and how the structure and function of aquatic ecosystems change in response to those effects. We'd also like to investigate the effect of climate change on fisheries, aquaculture, food security, and the blue economy. So altogether, what we're trying to do here is taking an interdisciplinary approach that involves faculty with different background and expertise in biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, mathematics, engineering, public health, economy, social science, to try to really address all these pressing challenges in a cost-effective manner and in a way that really benefits the people of the state of Maryland.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Agu and then Commissioner Serrano.
Sure. To the Morgan team, good morning. And Dr. Wilson, good morning. Question, and it came up in the TU presentation. I actually could have asked this question also to TU about the potential crunch in terms of teaching faculty, not just in a bachelor's program, not just in a doctoral program, but also in a bachelor's and in a master's program. So I'm curious, for your doctoral program, have you experienced crunches in terms of getting the amount of faculty that you need to actually teach the program? And then if I had more time, I would go back to TU and ask kind of a roughly similar question. But what has been your difficulty or lack thereof in finding enough faculty to teach in your program?
President Wilson, you want me to answer?
Yes, please. Yep.
Okay. So we have not experienced that. So when we have a need of those faculty, we conduct a search. We're able to find the qualified people as needed. So we've recruited in the last 3+ years about 148 new faculty members at Morgan State University in all the disciplines. So the increase of that is kind of a little bit unprecedented in all disciplines. So we don't experience the difficulty to recruit those people.
And just to follow up there, roughly how many in your environmental science degree, roughly for this particular doctoral program?
So related to them, I would say probably 10 or so that related directly to the program. Directly to the program.
And that's in the last two or 3 years, just have the time frame.
3 to 4 years.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Serrano?
Yeah, just a quick question. So on the graduates that are coming in, or the students that are coming into your program, can you tell us a little bit, like, are they from Maryland? Are they international students? Are they from the region? And do we have any idea of where they go? I guess that's my first set of questions.
So first of all, our students coming from all over the place. So not just Maryland, but also other places. But we have a large portion from Maryland. Our students, when they graduate, they do work in different areas, in industries, in the Maryland Department of Environment. My own student went to the Maryland Department of Environment. She got her PhD, and some became faculty and so forth.
And so let me just kind of widen it a little bit as well, Commissioner Serrano. Morgan, too, is an economic engine for the state. We're in the process of updating our economic impact study. It's right now about $1.5 billion a year. That last time we did that led to about 7,000 jobs statewide, and about like 600 or so million of that in Baltimore City. But 55% of our entire student population, I think it's 58 now, are from Maryland. We have 11,000 students, the fastest growing university in our state, by the way. We are at capacity, cannot grow anymore. But we also have conducted surveys as to those students who come from out of Maryland, that 45% from Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, the Northeast for the most part. When they graduate, about 75% of them remain within a 70-mile radius of the campus itself. So a large percent of them actually remain in the state. And while this is a little unrelated, because we do, have very strong STEM programs in engineering and the like, they remain in the state and they get those jobs at Lockheed Martin and they get those jobs in all of those STEM industries, and they further also contribute to the tax base in the state. So what we're seeing here in this program is what I'm understanding is that those students are behaving no differently.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Commissioner Serrano, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, just so we're talking about like kind of, the campus that's 3 miles, I guess, Towson that's 3 miles away. But there's another program at Hopkins, which is like similar amount of distance away. It's an environmental health. And to what extent has that program hurt your program? Or do you feel like you're in competition with Hopkins? I know there's a different, the cost of the programs would be different, and the structure of it is different, but like, to what extent has there been collaboration, or to what extent has there been some kind of pressure on your program?
Before I respond, can anyone address that at the program level?
No, President, so I'd like to give the first try.
No. Usually, if Hopkins is going to initiate a program, first of all, I have, President Ron Daniels and I have a very, very close working relationship, and we have, Dr. Yu, I think in the research space, what about 8 to 10 significant research partnerships with Hopkins. And in a program like this, though, the market would completely be a different market. And the student that would typically want to come to Morgan, you heard the cost of our program, which is like $30,000. They are just not in a position to want to, who knows, pay $75,000 a year to get that degree. And when with all due respect to all of our colleagues, they'll look at the programs and see if indeed they are comparable in terms of academic quality. And if they are, then why would I pay, and I don't have it, an additional $25,000 versus this one versus that one. So that, in a case like that, one can make an argument that it is perhaps a slightly different market.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Commissioner Thompson and then Commissioner Howe.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Wilson and the Morgan team. I have questions regarding the program objectives, namely thinking about the interdisciplinary way in which your program is set up. Could you speak to how you reach out to the community and give them awareness about the overall issue of the climate and the impact that it may have on the community? Not just speaking from the hard sciences of biology and physics and chemistry, but how other disciplines at Morgan help you to get that message out. That's the first question.
So let me take it at a kind of a K through 12 level, believe it or not. That's why I mentioned the fact that we do have a campus in St. Leonard. We take so many K through 12 students, inner city students, to that campus and begin to implant education in them about the environment overall. And it's something they don't think about on a daily basis. So we make this connection between how they're living their lives, on X Street in Baltimore, versus the impact of that on the environment, on climate, and then take them to see another model that is 3 hours away or so. And so there is a level of engagement there with the K through 12 community to make sure that we are raising that level of awareness about sustainability, about how they can contribute to lowering the the carbon footprint and how they need to think about the way they're living their lives to start them very, very young. So I'm very familiar with that because I have participated in some of those days when these young people are, wow, they just have not really processed it that way. So now beyond that, I would have to flip this back again to our team to see if they had anything else to add.
Just to give a couple examples that we are working with the Department of Energy to establish a station in the city to detect air quality and how the air quality affects people's health. So the study that really is the one thing we are doing that now. And then we also do things with the water quality, so on the coastal and also the urban areas.
And also, I'd like to add that we have a center that is also called Center for Urban Health Disparity Research and Innovation. And within that center, one of the major components is the community engagement call. And with that community engagement call, we really through, the community-based advisory board establish very strong relationship with the community to be able to address, pressing health issues that disproportionately affect minority and underserved populations. And so what we've been doing that really is to be able to, work with the community, first of all, to identify what are those critical health issues. And many of those critical health issues are induced by climate change. Right? You got like, urban heat islands, we got issues with, fish contamination and so forth, that, food insecurity. And our investigator here at Morgan are really, engaging in research, innovative research to be able to, identify some of the causes of those health disparities, some of the causes of climate change, and some of the mechanisms by which climate change really impact the populations, and trying to really provide science-driven data that can be used by, public policy makers to make informed decisions regarding, the management of climate change and the management of, many of these health disparities.
Yeah, thank you very much. My second question has to deal with internships around Morgan or in other areas for the students that are coming through the program. Your program goals mention establishing partnerships not only with other research institutions, but with museums and other places. Could you speak to that for just one moment, please?
I can start. Summer students, for example, went to NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, for internships. Because at doctoral level, students do not do a lot of internships like undergraduates. But we do have some of them to go to NOAA and go to NASA or the United Department of Environment.
Oh, I can give you another example. Morgan has a collaboration with the National Institute of Science and Technology, the NIST. They have a graduate internship with the NIST. And currently there are 4 PhD students from our program is working at the NIST lab. And one of my students that she just graduated from our program this semester, and she conducted her research on the microplastic pollution at NIST. So it's a really good example that we have the partnership with the different state or the federal agency to form a strong partnership to promote our student learning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Howe.
Well, first, let me say this has been a truly inspirational presentation both on the part of Towson University and you at Morgan. It is such a pressing need for the development and procurement of students to fulfill these roles, which will become increasingly important as we go on in the next years. So to go almost back to the beginning, because I couldn't speak then, for Morgan, are you recruiting faculty for your professors from Maryland or elsewhere, or both?
So when we recruit faculty, we recruit the best faculty in the nation that we can attract. And we do not limit that to Maryland. We think that would be a disservice to our students if, for example, there were faculty all over the nation, indeed all over the world, that are world-class, and we can recruit them at Morgan, and they would be in the classroom providing students with cutting-edge information, and we did not go after them. The flip side of that, though, is that when they come to Maryland, they reside in Maryland. They pay taxes in Maryland. They are Maryland citizens. And so I'm hoping that I'm responding to your question, Commissioner Howe.
All right, so a part of our analysis is whether or not the other program would be recruiting from the same pool of teaching candidates. And I think you would say that's true, correct?
Yes, I don't want to speak out of turn, but the way universities typically recruit faculty is not defined by geography. You know, you really are recruiting faculty. You want high quality faculty, the best you can recruit if you want high quality programs, if you're going to attract high quality students, right? But when those faculty members come, in terms of the analysis that you have before you with the state, it is are they coming in the best interest of the state? Well, yes, they are, because they are bringing cutting edge innovation, cutting edge knowledge to impart that to students who could then take that and, who knows, go out, found companies, live in Maryland, pay taxes. And so this is all intertwined.
All right, thank
you. And that's what we're doing.
Commissioner Howe, did you have another question?
No, I don't. I'm just trying to turn it off, and I turned it back on by mistake. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad it's finally working. Other questions from commissioners? All right. Thank you, Dr. Wilson, and to your whole team for an excellent presentation. And again, thank you to Dr. Rye and Dr. Ginsburg and their teams as well. This has been a really informative morning, or I guess we're now into the afternoon, but I think we've all learned a lot. And it is now time to focus on our deliberations. So, with respect to the law that applies, because Towson filed its appeal on, I think that's not the actual correct term, but Ms. Ward, do you want to correct me? What is the exact term that the Towson filed? Appeals, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Appeals fine.
All right. Because Towson filed its appeal before July 1st, when House Bill 1244 took effect, the law that was in existence at the time, three-pronged test that we're used to, that we did in our September review hearings, is the applicable law. So I will just read out, for the benefit of my fellow commissioners, the three-part analysis that we are to follow. Again, this is from Education Article Section 11206.1 of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Comar 13B.02.03.09. The determination of whether unreasonable duplication that causes demonstrable harm exists is a three-part analysis. First, the commission must determine whether the proposed program is duplicative of the existing program by comparing factors such as the degree to be awarded, the areas of specialization, the curricula, the purpose and objectives of each program, the competencies gained in the programs, their modalities, and each program's admissions requirements. So that's prong one. I'm going to read through each prong and then we can go back. Second prong. Second, the commission must determine if the duplication is unreasonable by reviewing the role and mission of each institution, the market demand for the existing program and the market demand for graduates of the programs, and if an existing program is a unique or high demand program at an historically Black institution, HBI, whether there is educational justification for both programs to exist. And third, the commission must determine if there is evidence that the duplication will cause demonstrable harm to an existing program, including but not limited to decreased enrollment, unavailability of faculty for the program, and if applicable, less availability of clinical site placements for students in the existing program. So we'll go back to prong one. I also want to note for the record, I think very soon after I did the roll call at the beginning, we were joined by Commissioner Williams. So I believe we have 9 commissioners present. So back to the first prong, we must determine whether the proposed program is duplicative of the existing program by comparing factors such as the degree to be awarded, the area of specialization, the curricula, the purpose and objectives of each program, the competencies gained in the programs, their modalities, and each program's admission requirements. So first question for us is Towson's proposed program duplicative of Morgan's existing program? I would open the floor to my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Howe.
I have listened very carefully to both of these presentations today. I believe that they each were professionally and competently provided for us. And it would be my determination that the request by Towson University is duplicative of the program at Morgan State University.
Thank you, Commissioner Howe. Other commissioners? Any other thoughts as to whether Towson's program is duplicative of Morgan's? Commissioner Howe is saying she thinks that it is. Do you want to flesh that out at all? You're thinking, oh, Commissioner Agu. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. I actually will go back to Dr. Howe. I just had a quick process question. It's been a year since we did one of these. We will be voting on each of these criteria one by one, or will we be making kind of one summation vote at the end? Just so I have
one summation vote at the end. We just need to determine them. We need to go through the analysis, but overall, we are just, this is helping us to determine whether there's demonstrable harm. We're just going through prong by prong. And Ms. Ward, who's our Assistant Attorney General, please feel free to chime in at any time. We would very much appreciate your counsel. Okay.
I turn it back to Judge Howe, and I'm happy to offer comments afterward.
Right, Judge Howe, and anything else you wanted to say that led you to your conclusion that your belief that Towson's program is duplicative?
I believe that, and it's partly it goes into the other factors as well, but I believe that these two institutions would most definitely be looking for the same professors and faculty to come and institute their program. And I think that is makes it duplicative.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Agu.
I think I generally concur. I think I think there's significant overlap between the programs, and when I think about duplication, absolutely, of course, there's what is the actual content overlap. I also, just partially from my background, can kind of step outside the program and say, to the market, how similar are these degrees?
Right.
And I would say to the market, I can see, frankly, them being seen as very, very similar. Not, again, I can make a case that there are differences, as TU has talked about, but to the market. And again, I just use one, and we'll get to that in terms of unreasonable. I just looked this up one. There actually is no, I used the chief sustainability officer role, and actually tried to see if there were statistics on what their backgrounds were. It's not comprehensive, but I'll just use one example. One of my former colleagues from the Biden administration is the chief sustainability officer for Microsoft. She is an attorney with a background on Capitol Hill in climate policy and also in the White House. My gut if I were to look across that, just that one occupation, I would see a variety of different types of preparations and academic backgrounds, but not necessarily one that requires a doctoral degree. Again, differently when you live lower down. So I think I would concur with what Judge Howe has talked about, because I think it'll look very similar to the market. So anyway, let me stop there. I'll be more coherent as time goes on.
Thanks, Commissioner Ago. Other thoughts about this one? Commissioner Warmack.
Yes, I would offer, that's why I asked the specific question about the courses overlap in terms of the curriculum. And so I found it to be duplicative in terms of the courses that they're, engaging in the curriculum of both programs, particularly around STEM, even though I know Towson made the case that, theirs is only the sciences. But when we heard the presentation from Morgan, we found that it was a broader curriculum and it was interdisciplinary to some extent, aligned to what Morgan offers. So I did find duplication in terms of the degree, the specialization area, and the curriculum, and of course the modality and the purposes may differ, but the curriculum, the larger portion of the curriculum and the degree and the specialization definitely overlap. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Voice, sorry.
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Warmack. Other thoughts from commissioners on this first prong? Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Motz. I concur with my fellow commissioners. I do believe that there is a lot of similarities, and I wasn't completely convinced that there was a difference between environmental studies and environmental sustainability between the two institutions. It seems as though Morgan has that in place and making sure that the work continues along that vein. I just wasn't clear that the other institution had something so unique, so different. I saw more similarities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Can everybody hear that? Commissioner Serrano?
Yeah.
Sorry, Commissioner, there's something going on with my computer. If Commissioner Serrano, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I kind of like, so I guess the question is premised on is the program duplicative and is it going to cause injury to one institution or the other? And I always try to
And we're going to get to that. I was trying to kind of go through this methodically. The first prong is it duplicative? Even if it is duplicative, we still need to consider whether it's unreasonable duplication and whether the duplication will cause demonstrable harm. So I just wanted to solicit thoughts just to try to organize our thoughts on whether it's duplicative before we move to the next two prongs. But sorry to interrupt you, but you're absolutely right. We do need to get to those next two prongs.
Yeah, I think it's duplicative in the sense that like the program at Hopkins would be duplicative. I mean, there's some classes that are going to overlap. I got my PhD in health economics and health services research. That was an interdisciplinary program. I would take classes in the economics department, I would take classes in political science department, I take classes in public health. Like, there's overlap. And so duplicativeness is not necessarily a reason to say this program is good or this program is bad, because a lot of programs tend to be that way. We take the same classes and eventually you kind of go deeper and deeper in a certain area. So I don't think, if the question on this question right here, are they duplicative? I would say yeah, but I don't think it's a problem at this level.
Well, and that's why there are two more prongs of the analysis. This is just, the lawyer and me just going through you do first prong if it's duplicative, but it may not be unreasonable or may not cause demonstrable harm. And we should talk about that too.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And yep. Chair Motz, I had my hand raised. I just wanted to go on record as agreeing with the statements made by Commissioner Serrano. Duplicative, maybe yes, but getting to the next two questions are, and maybe no. So I want to be clear, maybe yes, maybe no. But getting to the next two questions, I think would be helpful in the process. I also would suggest that there are reasons why people move to a level to get a doctorate. So I also have just a few concerns about statements made with regard to is it necessary to have a doctorate? But that may come into play later on as we answer the questions.
Fair enough. Yes. So perhaps we should move on to the next two prongs. I just wanted to give any other commissioner an opportunity to opine on whether they believe Towson's program is duplicative of Morgan's existing program. Commissioner Williams.
I agree with the majority of the conversation so far that it is duplicative.
Okay, as do I, for the record. Again, we're doing one final vote on whether there's unreasonable duplication that causes demonstrable harm, but I think it's helpful to go through prong by prong. Before we move to prong 2, anybody have anything else to say about duplication? Okay, so again, I'll read the second prong. Second, the commission must determine if the duplication is unreasonable by reviewing the role and mission of each institution, the market demand for the existing program, and the market demand for graduates of the programs. And if an existing program is a unique or high demand program at an historically Black institution, HBI, whether there is educational justification for both programs to exist. And I think it might make our deliberations easier if everyone except the commissioners and our council turns off their microphone, turns off their cameras. That's what council is suggesting, and I think that's a good idea. Okay, so no, Commissioner Serrano, please stay on, and Commissioner Agu, commissioners, please stay on. I think it's just would be easier for us to. Ms. Ward suggested that, and I think it's a good idea. So it's just easier to focus the discussion. It's a little distracting with the screen. So again, the second prong is whether the duplication is unreasonable. Again, looking at the role and mission of each institution, the market demand for the existing program, the market demand for graduates of the program, and if the existing program is a unique or high demand program at an HBI, whether there's educational justification for both programs. So would anybody like to begin the conversation about this second prong? Commissioner Agu?
Generally, when I look at this question in terms of is duplication necessary, my instinct is to go toward the market demand. Ideally, when I look at this, I look for, is there so much market demand for these graduates that having another program, creating more graduates going out in the market, if needed, makes sense to drive the economy to satisfy that particular demand. That's what I look for. I think when I look at the data, I don't see that. Not because climate change and the environment is not important, but just when we look at what folks are needing to do. Again, thinking about it, it is not required to have a doctoral degree to be a chief sustainability officer of a Fortune 1000 corporation. That's just, you just don't see that based on. I use that as one example of the types of fields that it sounds like the TU program would like to be filling. I don't necessarily see that being. Now, the one caveat that I might say is around the faculty side, there is a need on the undergraduate side, which I think that has a little more weight. We do need people to teach these things, but I did not quite see the case that this would necessarily fill that gap. So for me, I don't see a market demand that would justify the duplication. That's where I sit.
Thank you, Commissioner Agu. Other thoughts?
I echo Commissioner Agu's reflections.
Thank you, Commissioner Tabor-Stalen. Commissioner Dukes, and then Commissioner Howe.
I just have a question, and I may have missed it. did any of the respondents to the program, did any of them indicate how many of their graduates stay in state or leave the state of Maryland?
I think
Just to
Towson
answer
said a
that.
lot of them stay in state, and I think Morgan said the same. I think they
A
all
lot.
did both.
Towson said over 90%, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
All right. Well, I know they said over 90% of their students overall stay inside the state of Maryland. I
Of the
could,
program, you mean?
and
Yes.
right, I was asking about the program itself.
Oh, yeah, I get your distinction. I'm not sure about that. Does anybody remember that?
I think both institutions said or would say that they would expect us to mirror what happens overall, but Towson wouldn't have that data. And then Morgan, I don't believe we asked that question particularly. So I wouldn't want to, unless someone heard something else that I did not say.
All right. And did any of them indicate that they're also training people for potential faculty positions? They indicated that they do search for faculty and they need them at the highest level. But did any indicate that in addition to the core of the program relative to teaching and learning and being out in the field, that they also looked at these pools of students as potential faculty members? I don't think that was the case. I just put it on the table.
Towson did mention that as one of their rationale. They did mention as a rationale, but not the sole one.
Right.
I do not believe, and please, fellow commissioners, correct me, be honest. I do not believe Morgan mentioned that, but again, please correct me if I'm wrong. But Towson did speak to that a bit in their presentation, so I do want to say that on their behalf.
Thank you. That was just the question I had at the moment. Thank you.
Towson did, and it's in the presentation.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little, Commissioner Wormack? I know it's hard to talk.
Sorry, I was just confirming what our chair said. Yes, they did speak to that, and it is in their PowerPoint when they talk about the lay of the jobs. They talk about several teaching positions that are in demand in this area.
Commissioner Howe?
I am persuaded, particularly by what Dr. Wilson said, that in the event that they need to expand their own program, that they would be able to do that. They've had this huge infusion of money so that they will be able to dedicate a part of it, if necessary, into their existing program, which makes it unreasonable for me to grant another institution a duplicative program.
Other thoughts on this second prong? Commissioner Thompson?
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Howe. I also was thinking about the programs that Morgan already has in place. For example, they have their climate research lab that's happening. I believe it's down in Patuxent. He mentioned that. Dr. Wilson mentioned that. But they also have undergraduate programs where the students in their program can certainly apply for the PhD program at Morgan. So it's not to say that another institution shouldn't have a similar program, but I think that it is really unreasonable to expect Morgan to not be the only in the state, the only program in the state. I think that we need to remember that the program at Morgan has been successfully in place since its inception, and that there is strong funding still for the program, a permanent grant. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Thompson. Other thoughts about unreasonable duplication? Commissioner Serrano?
Yes, I wish that both institutions would have been a little bit more clear. Maybe they don't know, and I think of where their potential students would come from and where they would go to. Like if they were in jobs in Maryland, and specifically, 70 miles from Baltimore is everywhere, right? That could be New Jersey, that's everywhere. Like, so I don't think that's very specific to Maryland per se. That being said, like, because the numbers are not concrete on either side, then it shifts my focus to what is the injury that would be happening to Morgan State if it does happen. And I think President Wilson's comments about that 6 graduate students short of a R1 status is really, really shocking. It's really sad, actually, to be honest. And I think their goals of what they're trying to do are exciting. And I think if it comes down to that, then I would just say, let's keep Morgan State's program as intact, and let's just because right now, like, I could have been persuaded otherwise if I said, if Towson said, well, here's how many students are going to come in. They're going to come in from Maryland, and here's our based on a similar program that we have. We graduate them, and we have partnerships, and they're going to go to this workforce in Maryland. That would be great, but there's no assurance from what I've heard and from what I'm seeing, like, that's going to be the case. And I don't know if you really can prove that, but like, I do think that there's going to be, either way, having another program that's somewhat similar is going to cause some harm, whether it's unreasonably high harm and I think in this case, I think it because there's no concrete numbers to suggest otherwise, I would think it would cause unreasonable harm to Morgan State, and that's why I would say, yeah, I think it's. I guess if the question is, does it cause unreasonable harm? Yes.
I appreciate your comments. Again, in case folks don't have the law right in front of them, so the script I've been reading, there's the second prong is unreasonable duplication, and then the third prong is, even if there is unreasonable duplication, will it cause demonstrable harm? So you've spoken to both of those, Commissioner Serrano. Again, unreasonable duplication, according to the law, things that we should be considering are the role and mission of each institution, the market demand for the existing program. We talked a bit about that, the market demand for the graduates. And then if the existing program is a unique or high demand program at an HBI, whether there's educational justification for both programs. So that's the unreasonable duplication prong. And then moving to the third prong, Commissioner Serrano, that you've already brought us to, the third prong is whether the commission must determine if there's evidence that the duplication will cause demonstrable harm to an existing program, including but not limited to decreased enrollment, unavailability of faculty, and if applicable, less availability of clinical site placements for students in the existing program. Commissioner Howe?
I believe that the third prong has also been satisfied by Morgan, although it's fuzzier for me because there was kind of a not so specific statistic on some of the things. But for me, one of the primary things for me is where they can get their faculty. And if they're competing for the same faculty, the Towson University people would be competing, I believe, with Morgan to get qualified instructors into their program. So for me, I believe that there is evidence of demonstrable harm in favor that I would approve the Morgan objection.
Thank you, Commissioner Howe. Commissioner Dukes?
I am certainly torn between these two, but the other comment that I would make is that we're assuming that faculty come from a very specific jurisdiction. They can recruit faculty nationwide, actually internationally, and the like. So I'm for me, I think that the way that the rules are set up, and I've said this before, so I'm certainly not speaking out of turn, is that sometimes it leads us to a decision that just by virtue of the writing of the questions that need to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Dr. Dukes. Other thoughts on these second and third prongs, unreasonable duplication and demonstrable harm.
Just a quick thought. On the unreasonable duplication, I'm really drawn back to the presentation from the secretary and their team about what is the real market demand for jobs. And I'm kind of going back and forth because I know sustainability officers are absolutely needed in many, many areas for many organizations and industries. But I was drawn to their data that said the real demand is in the bachelor area, that they need bachelor's degree in many areas. And I think Towson brought that out as well. Morgan didn't talk about it as much, but I think Towson brought out that their programs are doing well at the bachelor and master's level. So I just wondered, I couldn't get my arms around needing another PhD program, given what the labor data or the market demand data said. So I can't marry the two up.
Commissioner Agu.
On the harm piece, I think I concur with a lot of what's been said, particularly on where the students are going to come from. I think, candidly, we're not hearing that Morgan is turning students away. So at this moment, one can make the argument, despite the data that we have, this is a bit of a finite pool, not necessarily with overflow. I will say this, and it came up just a little bit, and I will say I know less about this, and I'm sure some others. It sounds like part of the motivation for Towson is, of course, trying to reach that R2 status, unless they already have it. I might miss that, but it sounds like hopefully this is part of that march towards that, which I wholeheartedly support. And I would say, just as a whole, no matter how this decision comes out, in many ways, we at MHAC have wholeheartedly supported what Morgan is doing to get to R1. I think very similarly with Towson. I think however this comes out, I think there's likely additional work to do to get them to an R2. We at MHAC, I raise my hand here to support them in that endeavor. So I want to just name it because that was said. We haven't talked about it much, but it sounds like that is also part of the directional motivation for some of this for Towson. And I want to say we want to help continue that as that happens. I just wanted to say that out loud as we discuss that.
Thanks, Commissioner Agu. Other thoughts? Does anybody want to make a motion? Commissioner Howe? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Serrano has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to actually make a motion, but
I'll
defer to Commissioner Howe.
Okay.
So are you ready for the motion?
Yes.
I would move that all three prongs of the qualification that we need to determine for whether or not Towson University's program should go forward has not been met by Towson University, and that the level of proof from Morgan University on all three prongs leads us to a decision that Towson University's request is denied.
And just to add to that, because I'm reading the law in front of me, would you say that, oh, sorry, Commissioner Wormack, go ahead. Did you have a question, Commissioner Wormack?
Commissioner had raised her hand before me, so I'll wait for her.
I'm sorry, whoever was next, please go ahead. I lost track.
I wanted to second the motion, but it seems as though there was a.
I just wanted to get the legal language in there because we're being asked to determine whether unreasonable duplication exists that would cause demonstrable harm to the existing Morgan program. And Commissioner Howe, I understand your motion to say that you're calling for a motion to find that there is unreasonable duplication that would cause demonstrable harm to the existing Morgan program. Is that correct?
Exactly correct.
Yes. Sorry, Commissioner Thompson, go ahead, and then Commissioner Wormack.
I second the motion.
All right. Commissioner Warmack, anything to add?
I had a question. I thought the purpose of our decision, yes, based on the factors, are to either uphold or override the secretary's decision.
You're right.
Okay. I just want to make
You're right.
sure.
So maybe you're right. I don't have the magic language in front of me, but maybe I'll ask Ms. Ward, our lawyer, who I know is listening in. Ms. Ward, if you could give us the language that we're supposed to be voting on.
Where did she go? Anyway, that's my motion. It is to uphold Dr. Rye's decision based upon his determination upon a consideration of all the factors which are necessary to be considered led him to deny the Towson University application.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have no idea. My camera went off and I apologize, but I heard all of you all in your deliberations and I tried to jump in. Yeah, you do need to decide whether or not you're going to affirm the secretary's decision. I'm sorry. I had no idea. I was trying to fix my camera and I almost turned my computer over, but I am back. I see myself. So I apologize.
All right, so that's in my motion to affirm Dr. Rye's decision.
Second.
Okay. And is there a second?
Yes, a second the motion.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
So
Any opposition?
I just want to make Chair Motz, I just want to, we want to make sure that we have the exact vote.
Yes, I think what probably we'll do it sort of like you poll a jury. I'll just call out each person's name and they can say their vote, just so it's very clear for the record. Commissioner Howe, I believe you made the motion. What is your vote?
My vote is aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Warmack?
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tabor?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Dukes?
Oppose.
Commissioner Agu?
Aye.
And Motz, aye. So I think that is 8 in favor, 1 opposed.
Correct.
Correct.
And I think we needed 7 votes to take a formal action. Commissioner Tabor? Did you have anything to add?
I have a comment, but if there's anything else we need to do to close out the vote, I can wait until then.
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I just want to say now that the vote is finished that I have nothing but appreciation for everyone here today. I thought this was an incredibly fair process with positive intent on all fronts. And I think we followed it as we have all been instructed and did all of the roles that have been assigned to us in all of the bodies. And I would be remiss not to say that I fundamentally disagree that we should be having these conversations for programs this small. So this is a program that at maximum would have reached 6 to 8 people each year at a time when we have 1.8 million individuals in Maryland who have high school degrees but no college degrees, hundreds of thousands of whom are living in poverty. And I do feel like it is incumbent upon us to look at what are these systems that are requiring us to spend today 200 people hours on this and hundreds of additional hours. And what are the practices even beyond those systems? Because though we can pursue these processes, it doesn't always mean we should. And so I strongly suggest that we consider revisiting with the legislative working group having a minimum threshold at which we evaluate these decisions, maybe things that would impact 100 or hundreds of individuals a year as a minimum. And in the time until we have such a minimum, that our institutions perhaps implicitly agree not to pursue these incredibly time-consuming, arduous, emotionally exhausting processes when we are talking about impact at a level of several individuals a year at a time, again, when we have millions of individuals who need education as a route to a better life. So that is the comment I would like to share. And I mean no disrespect for anyone here. I think everyone showed up beautifully and followed the process that it has been laid out. And I hope we can all collectively think about how we can better serve the people who are being failed by our institutions every day.
Very well said. I concur. Other thoughts, comments? All right, there will be a written letter describing this that will be forthcoming no later than December 6th. Is that right, Ms. Ward?
That is correct.
And do we need a motion to adjourn, or do we just declare the meeting
Yes, this is
concluded?
still a meeting. This is still a commission meeting, so you
So
do.
moved.
All right. Second?
Second.
I'll second it. Any opposition? All right. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you.